a regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Facilities Committee. It is Wednesday, May 6th, and at the beginning of the committee of the meeting, we have from Ward 2, Councilor Albright, from Ward 3, Councilor Kelly. Oh, from Ward 1, Councilor Leary, I just noticed. From Ward 4, Councilor Damubed. When he's admitted, there we go. From Ward 5, we have uh, Vice Chair Getz. From Ward 6, Councilor Gordon. From Ward 7, Councilor Grossman, and I'm David Kalis from Ward 8. We're also joined by Commissioner of Public Buildings, Alex Valcarce, the Commissioner of DPW, Shauna Sullivan, Deputy Commissioner of DPW, Bernie McDonald, COO, Josh Morse. And Director of Transportation, Jen Martin. There, and I see Co-Sustainability Director, Sam Nyman. We have a lot of people here, so a lot to get through. We'll start with the first item, which is 145-26, appointment of Emily Prenner to the Design Review Committee. We also have Emily Prenner here, former school committee person. Good to see you. And Commissioner Alex Valcarce, are you going to be talking about this one?
Yes, I am.
Great, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having us. I probably could speak all night about Emily and wouldn't hit half of her value. She has been on the Design Review Committee as the school committee rep for quite a number of years and has been involved in pretty much every capital school project since I've been here, since 2011. I would just say we're very fortunate that she is willing to re-up. And as you all know from the slate of things coming, we've got some big things that we want to get started on. So I would just thank her very much for volunteering. And I think everybody should really be proud to have her be on the committee. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before we jump in, let me just read the full item 145-26, appointment of Emily Prenner to the Design Review Committee. His Honor the Mayor, appointing Emily Prenner, 702 Chestnut Street, Woburn, as a member of the Design Review Committee for a term to expire on December 31st, 2029. All right. I see that Councilor Albright, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Ms. Prenner for being willing to take on another task, or continue to take on this task, I guess is more accurate. And you're really appreciated, and your expertise is appreciated. So I don't have any questions for you. I just want to thank you for being willing to do it.
Thank you, Councilor Albright. Councilor Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also share Councilor Albright's view on how lucky we are to have Emily to continue in this role. And I have worked with her and seen how effective she is, the Zervis, Cabot, Ainger, and then most recently the Lincoln Elliott School. So I'm very grateful that she's once again volunteering her skills for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leary. Councilor Kelly.
I third it. I've known Emily a really long time. I serve on the Design Review Committee with her. It's not just her experience on school projects, but thank you so much, Emily, and I fully support her reappointment also.
Excellent. All right. Any other comments on this one? Okay. Did one of you make a motion?
It's me. It's me.
Okay, Councilor Getz.
Yeah. At Ward 5. And I would say that Emily, who knew? Because I was actually looking through all of the content, and I knew you through, just being a neighbor as well as, the Angier work, but I was, I did not know, and the Dems. But so I am incredibly appreciative that you're stepping back in. I think this is wonderful. So I would move to support the appointment.
Thank you, Counselor Getz. Okay, there's a motion to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that's unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Brenner.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Okay, the next item, this is item 147-26. And this one is going to be amended. You'll notice as I read it, there are slight changes. Appropriation of $3.2 million for snow and ice expenditures. His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to transfer and expend the sum of $24.98 from account number 01C10401 Inclement Weather Reserve Fund and appropriate and expend $2,319,875.02 from June 3rd, 2025 certified free cash with $750,000 to account number 0140123-513010 regular overtime and $2,450,000 to account number 0140123-529100 contractors to balance snow and ice expenditures. Ms. Pennell, did I get that right? Excellent. Okay, Commissioner Sullivan, would you like to walk us through this?
I would love to. Good
Thank
evening,
you.
counselors. I'm here tonight to request an appropriation of $3.2 million to supplement the city's snow and ice operations budget. This winter, the city of Newton experienced a total snowfall accumulation of 63.9 inches of total snow and ice. Total snow and ice expenditures for fiscal year 2026 reached approximately $8.49 million, which equates to approximately $132,863 per inch of snowfall. These expenditures include salary and overtime costs associated with snow and ice operations, contractor support for plowing and snow hauling, salt and liquid treatment materials, and our equipment maintenance and repairs. It is important to note that snowfall totals alone do not fully reflect the operational demands of this winter. Several storms involved, extended icing conditions, repeated freeze-thaw cycles, overnight timing, and multiple treatment events that required repeated deployment of personnel and equipment, even when snowfall accumulation itself was moderate. We did experience 2 significant storms as well. We continue to evaluate operational efficiencies, contractor utilization, material management, strategies, and equipment performance to ensure that snow and ice operations are delivered as effectively, safely, and responsibly as possible. Happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, any questions? Councilor Albright.
So is this the end of it, Ms. Sullivan?
It is the end of it.
So, and that, does that bring us to a little bit more than 8 million or what?
8.49.
8.49 million, wow.
Yes.
I was just thinking about, I was doing some research on past storm histories, and one year there was 109 inches.
Yes.
Wow, what that would cost, I can only imagine.
I can't in today's dollar imagine what that would be.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm happy to approve that when the time comes.
Thank you,
Councilor
Counselor.
Albright. Councilor Leary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So, Ms. Sullivan, it was a tough winter for everybody. Was there anything that you think you would have done differently at all, or anything you kind of learned from the amount of snow that we got in a fairly short period of time?
Yes. So we are thinking about taking a different approach to our snow contracts this upcoming season.
Okay.
And we will be requiring our contractors to use our new routing software, which should prove to be much more efficient than what we are doing today.
Okay, that's good because like there were a couple of like glitches which you could expect, like dead end roads that didn't get plowed out for quite a while, and I'd like to see that improved going forward. That's all.
So the routing software should address that issue.
Yeah, great. I also just want to thank you so much for the cleanup of Forte Park. It looked really good when I went there the other day, and as you know, it was a total mess not like a month or two ago. So thank you so much for that good work.
So I would give some credit to Parks and Rec there.
Okay. Okay, I'll thank them when the time comes too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Counselor Leary. Counselor Getz, I saw you waving your
Yeah.
hand.
It was
Are
the only
you
thought
using,
that-
are you
Yeah.
using your human hand or a yellow hand?
No, I was just curious because I was bouncing off of Allison, Counselor Leary, because I thought that, if, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Sullivan, but the implementation of this new software only happened, into this season, correct? So
That
that
is-
it was recently, and I was curious because you mentioned that you want to require it. Is it transferable? Is it the kind of thing that could actually readily go on any vehicle?
So it is actually a phone application. This year
Okay.
we used it with our city forces. In the upcoming year, we expect to use that with our contractors. We need contract language, obviously, but that
Mhm.
shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, well, hopefully that's a real improvement, just even in terms of the efficiency, right?
Yes,
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Getz. Counselor Grossman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if Councillor Albright was intending to move approval or just saying she would be happy to approve it, but I was raising my hand to move approval. I have followed the snow and ice situation and the funds that would be needed to cover this year's snow removal closely, obviously, from the finance end of things. And with thanks for all the hard work that was done, I'd like to move approval of this money.
And would you move approval of the amended amounts?
I would love to move approval of the amended amounts.
Okay. There's a motion to approve the 147-26 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, now we have item 123-26. Request for relocation of drain easement in Rose Street. Robert Binal, excuse me if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, 129 Rose Street, Auburndale, petitioning to relocate the existing city drain easement located on the right side of the dwelling on 129 Rose Street to the left side of the property to allow for a new dwelling to be constructed on the property. Petitioner to pay entire cost. Okay, why don't we go right to Mr. Binal?
Yes, sir.
Binal, and we'll hear from you and then we'll ask it questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, council. My name, Robert Bernal, like you just said, this is my wife, Alex. We've lived in the city our entire life, and about 2 years ago, actually about 3 years ago, we decided we wanted to renovate our house. Unfortunately, as you can see from the plot plan that we provided, there is a drain easement that runs directly up the right-hand side of the house and is 6 inches off the right-hand side of the house. The entire property to build, we can't add on to the house due to this drain easement. So we then started the process of possibly trying to move the drain easement. Through all of this, we have now decided to move out of Newton. So we are no longer Newtonians. We are now Uxbridge. We're about 50 minutes from Newton. The goal now, to be quite honest with you, is we've gone through historic. We have got their permission to remove the house. And now the idea is to now build a house for my 23-year-old son and his new wife on that property. I was brought as a baby 55 years ago to that property, and the house is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, not very good for today's needs of a family. So that's why we're asking to move this drain easement so that my son, we all know Newton prices are very expensive. He cannot afford a piece of property in Newton, but I can give my son a piece of property and he can build a house in the city of Newton. And that's what we're trying to do for my son. So that's why we're asking for your help on this.
Thank you, Mr. Binal. Okay. Counselor, we'll go to some questions and then open the public hearing. So Counselor Albright.
So you're probably aware of Mr. Markowitz's letter that he wrote to us. Are you aware of it? He's your neighbor on Walcott Street behind you.
I am not aware of that letter, no. I was not privy to that.
Okay, well, he wrote us a letter being concerned about how the movement of that easement would affect his house. And I'm kind of curious myself about how
So-
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. So I can tell you that the drain easement was already cambered. So that drain easement was cambered for me. The camera was only able to get 100 feet down the line, which is 5 feet short of his property line. So when it comes into my property, the property currently floods when we get a lot of rain on Walcott Street. So again, there was a camera put down and the camera was only allowed to get down 100 feet down that line. So that line currently, I believe, is damaged. And that was done by the DPW, that they put a camera down the line. So we are willing to put an entirely new line from our property line with sewer easements for cleanouts, with a new sewer catch basin on Rose Street. So we're willing to pay for all of this new piping to go in, which, and again, of course, I want to move it. So I'm not trying to say this is the best thing in the world for the city, but in my opinion, it is, because currently you cannot get a camera from Walcott Street to Roke Street. It is impossible to get a camera down that line.
Yeah, Mr. Markowitz was making some comments about how he thinks the pipe the pipe is not good anymore. That if you touch it, he's insinuated that it would fall apart.
Which is correct. And if something like that were to happen, from the letter I got from Mr. Donnelly, we are responsible for fixing all of it, which we are well aware of.
So how much of the pipe are you going to be replacing? Are you going to be replacing the pipe that goes all the way to Walcott?
We would not do that because it is not on our property line unless it is damaged. And then yes, the contractor would have to do it and I would be responsible for paying for it, which we would.
Huh. So are we going to be hearing from engineering at all on this?
Yeah, so that was my next point. I was going to go to Associate City Engineer John Daglian, who's here. Mr. Daglian, could you chime in on this?
Yes, good evening, everyone. So based on the plan that we have received, the relocation is for a 15-inch drain line that goes cross-country through that property. So what they're proposing is to relocate it to the westerly side of the property with a couple of manholes and new reinforced concrete pipe. The existing pipe that goes to that whole neighborhood is over 100 years old and needs to be replaced. So this is a good opportunity to get that portion of it done. If I heard correctly, Robert is saying that he's willing to pay for the entire run from Walcott to Rose Street. Was that clear?
No, if we were to replace our piece, and of course we were to damage anything, we would of course then be responsible for fixing what we damage. And I'm well aware of that we would be responsible for fixing that.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yep.
And also in that proposed easement, our standard is 20 feet wide. The current proposal is only 15 feet. So we
Yep.
would ask for that to be widened. And we would definitely need more detailed construction plans before they get final approval for the installation and connection.
Mr. Chair, could I ask Mr. Daglian a question about that?
Yes, go ahead.
So I think Mr. Markowitz was worried about the pipe on his property that goes from Walcott across towards Rose Street. And is this a city easement? It's a city easement, right?
That's correct.
So would the DPW be willing to replace that part of the easement if it's no longer? I mean, he's worried that it's not workable.
You'll have to ask my boss,
Okay, is your boss here?
Shauna.
That would be me.
That's the big
Well,
boss.
we are happy to camera his portion as long as we can get access.
Okay, and if you find that it's not in good condition, you would be willing to replace that part of it as well?
We would schedule it for repair, yes.
Okay, well, I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Albright. Counselor Donald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation and clarifications. I guess I have a couple of questions about this. First, do you have plans? I think I heard you say you are planning to demolish the existing house and build a new single family. Is that correct?
Correct, single family.
Do you have plans already prepared for that?
We do
Drawings that we
not
could
have,
see in relation to the easement?
we don't have plans. The reason is because we didn't want to go through that whole process and spending additional money if we weren't able to move the easement. As you can imagine, we've spent a great deal of money so far just to get the engineered plans from VTP just to be able to get to this process. So that's why we haven't. And when we went through historic, we were willing to give them plans, but they told us it was not necessary because now the house is not deemed historic, so they're allowing us to knock it down.
Okay, my understanding is the house is from 1930. Is that correct?
1930, yes, I believe.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, my understanding of Mr. Markowitz's concern was that the easement, the existing easement runs under or near his home and porch, and that the exact location, according to some city employees, city sites, of the pipe isn't certain, and so if damage were to occur, then it could require considerable, digging up of his property and maybe porch and that kind of thing. I guess part of the question then is to maybe to Mr. Daglian or Commissioner Sullivan, do we have a way of having a better understanding of the exact location of the pipe as it runs through Mr. Markowitz's property?
We have an existing easement, and when we do the CCTV, we could put a tracer on it so that it could be located on the ground so we could physically see where the pipe is in relation to the easement.
Okay, that's promising. And do we know the date of that pipe by chance?
Records go back quite a ways. I don't have a specific date, but I can get that. I know it's about 100 years old, if not more older.
Okay, I was just thinking Mr. Markowitz's house was built in 1885, he says, and so that might have, the relationship of one to the other might have answered the question. But yeah, there
So
it
that's
is.
the existing easement that goes from Walcott to Rose Street. And you can see the applicant's house is right here. Kitty corners the lot. And Mr. Mankowitz's property is up above to the north.
Got it.
And if I could jump in real quick, just
Sure.
so like I was saying, when we get rain on Walcott Street, our yard floods. So that pipe going from Walcott Street to Rose Street is probably not connected to Rose Street anymore because like I said, we get a lot of water in our yard. And it's, again, we're trying to move a house. I'm the first one to admit that, but if we're also willing to pay for that section of pipe that comes on my property line, which is, I think, 130 or so feet or 180 feet by the time we're done, which is as you can guess, is a large amount of money that we're willing to pay to move a house that the city now doesn't have to pay.
Understood. Thank you. I think I'll leave my questions there for now.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Damabed.
Yes.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, following up a bit, I think, on some of the points that Councilor Damabed was raising, and also on your abutter, Chris Markowitz's letter. As I just think I heard it, Commissioner Sullivan said that if it turns out that when you get to the Markowitz property line, if the replacement of this pipe ends up impacting his old decrepit pipe too, that the city would replace that part that goes all the way across the middle of the Markowitz property from the property line to whatever street Mr. Markowitz, Walcott. Is that what you said, Commissioner Sullivan?
Not exactly. What
Okay.
I said that if there is an issue, we would camera the pipe.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't sound like there is if they're getting water in the yard on the Rose Street property. It sounds like the pipe may be damaged within that Rose Street property or in Rose Street itself, but we're happy to camera Chris Markowitz's property and his drain easement and make sure that the water is flowing through it. If it isn't, obviously we will schedule it to be repaired.
Well, that's the part I mean. Schedule it to be repaired. If it needs to be replaced because that whole section of it is not functioning too, is this something that the Markowitzes are going to have to pay for, or the city would pay for? Because of the work done on Mr. Banal's property, if it causes the awareness or disruption of that totally goes all the way across the Markowitz property, who would be responsible for paying for that replacement?
So I'd ask John, which way is the drain flowing, into Row or into Walcott?
Into Row Street. It flows from north to south.
Yeah.
And I just checked, the pipe was installed in 1907.
1907.
So after the construction of Mr. Markowitz's house.
So let's just make sure that Counselor Kelly, was your question answered by the commissioner?
Not fully. So my concern is that the replacing of this pipe for a not yet determined proposal, which I do wish we could look at. I understand, Mr. Banal, Mr. and Mrs. Banal, why you haven't proceeded in that direction, but it's hard, maybe because I come from a land use perspective, to approve a plan that we don't really know where the house is located, and it runs all the way through the center of your abutter's property right up near his house. And I'm just concerned that the improvement to make your lot developable may cause a very big inconvenience and expense to your abutter. For me, I would love to be able to go out and see this property. And even if if Mr. Daglian would join us, or if the location of this pipe is staked, we could see that. And from Mr. Markowitz's property, I would feel more confident about understanding the situation if we could have a site visit, and if we knew who would be responsible for the replacement, if, as it turns out, I see Commissioner Sullivan raising on it. So those are just my concerns for now.
Thank you,
So-
Counselor Kelly.
Counselor,
Go ahead.
I'm happy to have that line scheduled for Cameron. We will just need to get in touch with Mr. Markowitz to schedule it, and we can probably do it fairly soon.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner. Counselor Getz.
Yeah, I would actually, I appreciate the comments that Counselor Kelly made, because I do feel as if we need to know more. And I sort of am concerned that both the direct abutters are not here tonight. Mr. Markowitz had a previous engagement, and then the abutter 131 Rose Street. I don't know if you're here tonight, but the pipe would actually run between those two properties, 131 and 129. And I would love to know, what that abutter feels about the pipe running between the properties, or, it's laying, if I'm reading the map correctly. It's on your property. But then it does a turn, and then goes down to Row. So, I'm tempted to move hold, because I want those people in the room, because it's actually going to have an impact on those two direct abutters.
And we do have a VTP engineering oversight that can show you guys what it would look like, where the drain easement would, and it would still be in our property if you want to see that. I'm sure Mr. Dagley has it, or I can pull it up for you.
Okay. Well, are you, there are a few people that have their hand up, and I think,
There it
I
is.
don't know if the person.
Yeah,
that's-
let's revisit this afterwards. Who put this up?
I didn't.
Okay, let's hold off on that. So, Mr. Banal, if you have something to say, why don't you raise your hand as well?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, Counselor Getz, any other questions?
For now, no. I'm just sort of, I was moving hold, because I do feel as if it is really important to have the direct abutters a part of this conversation. I think that would be wise, as well as getting the data, or the sighting of the pipe and the camera work done.
Okay.
I think those are both would be helpful.
Okay, so let's get through, we'll go Counselor Leary, Albright, Donald Bed, and Grossman, and then Gail, I see that you're there, and we'll open the public hearing and have you speak as well. So, Counselor Leary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm in agreement with the comments of of Counselor Kelly and Counselor Getz. I don't fully understand the impacts of this, and I do think Mr. Markowitz should be a part of this. And I think a site visit makes sense. And then I just had one other concern about sort of the stormwater issue. This is a 1907 storm drain in poor condition. Was this on any of our city plans to review or look at as part of our stormwater improvement project?
Happy to answer that. We are in the midst of our stormwater improvement update. So it will be part of that update, which is scheduled to be finished, I believe it was June 2027. I would need to double check the date.
Okay, and do you have is there any way to prioritize the storm drains where there might be areas where it would cause more flooding damage or be more impactful?
So part of that stormwater improvement plan includes a prioritized capital improvement program for all of our storm drains and culverts.
Okay. Okay. I just find it concerning that we have a pipe that old that looks like it's not even functional and maybe pretty damaged.
So I do want to be clear that it could be a portion of the pipe that's collapsed and the rest of the pipe is just fine.
But we just don't know,
We need to
right?
camera it. We don't know. So the cameraing
Okay.
always does help.
Okay. So at this point, I would support a hold. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Larry. Counselor Albright.
So if we were to have a site visit, it would be great to have that camera done before we have the site visit, so we have a better sense. But my question really was, I don't know, and maybe this would be a good time to bring up the map if you don't mind. Are you going to have to put a bend in the pipe? And does that affect the flow of the stormwater?
Thank
Oh,
you,
wait.
Mr. Daglin.
So yes, we would put a bend in it, but there would be a manhole cover at every bend so that there would be a proper turn. Again, we did this through an engineer to make sure that it would be built properly. So it wouldn't just be a 22-degree turn or a 45-degree turn. It would literally be, I believe it is a 4-foot wide manhole cover at every, or 3.5 feet. I'm not an engineer, but it's you can see on the left-hand side there, they actually show the actual manhole. And anywhere there is a turn, there has to be a manhole so that the water can turn properly. And
Okay,
those are
and
situated.
okay, and you're putting it right down the edge of your lot line on the left-hand side?
Correct.
Okay, I guess I have a question for Mr. Daglian. Does this have any, with this, the location, the bend and the location of the pipe, is this going to have any impact on the abutters? Or
No,
the flow of the water?
the flow of the pipe should not have an impact on anyone. It'll meet the hydraulic standards where you have the inverts of those manholes making gentle sweeps so the water flows naturally in a channel and it stays confined in the pipe itself.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Thank you,
I'm all
Counselor Albright. And thank you, Mr. Banal and Daglian. Okay, Counselor Grossman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a bunch of my questions have been asked by my colleagues, and I'm in agreement with the comments of Councilors Getz, Kelly, Leary, and the motion to hold. So looking at that map, and I'm sorry, I know you just took it down, but could you point out to me how many were those all manhole covers, all those dark spots? Like where on here, which of these things is a manhole cover?
Yeah, so when it comes in the back of the property, you have a red circle. which is
Okay.
right there. So that is a manhole. And then there is another manhole right there because it makes another turn. So you have to have a manhole. And then that is just a straight pipe that comes up the property because there's no turns at that point. And then it connects into Rose Street. So there's
Okay.
two on the property.
So it's the red hole, it's the red circles.
Correct. Excuse me.
And are there currently manhole covers elsewhere on the property?
There are not. There is just a straight shot.
Okay. So I suppose this may be a better question for after a camera of Mr. Markowitz's pipe and a site visit. I would really like some insight into the potential risks. Essentially, in the worst case scenario, what could go wrong to abutters and what would that mean? And I would also like an explanation that if the pipe does need to be replaced underneath Mr. Markowitz's property, what does that process entail? And what sort of impact is that to the folks that live there? I'm asking because I truly have no idea. Does it involve digging something up? Is it sort of like if you think about a surgery where they're able to kind of, go in and snake something down the body? Is it like that? I mean, could you explain a bit more what that would mean for Mr. Markowitz and for that matter, any other abutters?
So
Are you
John,
asking that now, or do you want to hold on that?
If somebody could, if that is worth answering today, sure. If it's not, I'm happy to ask that question again.
I'm happy to
think-
give you initial information if that's helpful.
That'd be
Okay.
great, Ms. Sullivan.
So we would need to camera the line to determine what kind of shape that drains in. We could potentially line it to create a more solid structure and just give it better integrity. Or if there's a collapse, we would obviously need to dig. But it is impossible to know this without cameraing the line.
So let's say you had to dig and it ran underneath, I mean, I don't even know what, a structure or landscaping. How does one do that?
It would be a lot of coordination with the property owner, obviously. So it would really depend if we could move it so that we didn't have to disrupt the structure. Obviously, that would be where we would probably go. Landscaping, we can put back in. A porch is a whole different matter.
So let's say it's landscaping that
Mhm.
our city team can dig that up, fix the pipe and put that back in as though nothing ever, and it'll look on the surface as though nothing ever happened.
It would be really helpful to do a site visit to understand.
Okay. Well, I will save any other questions along those lines for the future. Mr. Markowitz did pose in his letter to us an additional question, which was what happens if the new easement is granted but not exercised? Does the existing easement cease? If so, what happens if access provided by the original easement is needed in the future as the existing pipe remains in place?
Ms. Sullivan?
So if you were to approve this and they
It
would,
wasn't exercised.
and it wasn't exercised, I don't think we would discontinue the current easement until the other drain was in place and we had accepted the full easement and drain.
Is that legally how it works?
I think that we can hold off on the discontinuance. We can have multiple easements on a property. We would have to discontinue the easement because we wouldn't have rights once the city drain was replaced in a different location. I can verify with law department, but I believe that is generally how that works. Because if they don't do the project, we would still need access to the existing drain.
Okay. So I'll stop there. I've already sort of stated some of my questions and concerns. I guess the last thing I will say is that I also agree that it would be easier for me to wrap my head around this if I had a concept of what we were looking at going onto this property, coupled with this and how that would all work together with this request. But I'm all set for now, and I do support hold. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grossman. So Councilor Kelly and Damobed, are these related to what Councilor Grossman brought up, or are they quick? I want to get to the
Yes.
public hearing if I could.
For me, I'm going to be very quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. because this is a relocation and going down the whole other side of the site, someone mentioned before that there is another abutter, and I think that might be a woman who has her hand raised because it looks like Gail Larson is the abutter on the other side. I am curious to know what impact this could have on her property. And because, which is off our screen, the end where this terminates on Rose Street is obviously in a different location than existing. Oh, there we go. So how does that happen? And for me too, it's hard to know without knowing where the new structure will be located, what the plan is for that. It's just a little hard. So I also support a hold. I would like a site visit. I would like some of these questions answered. I would like, Mr. Markowitz's pipe to be cambered before we go out. I just have a lot of questions and apprehensions around this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kelly. Councilor Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the first thing is I just wanted to ask that when the cammering does happen, if the sort of geolocating and staking could, with the CCTV that Mr. Daglian mentioned, if that could happen at the same time, and so that when we go for a site visit, we can actually see the exact plot of the pipe with little flags or however it's commonly done, that would be really helpful. And then I just wanted to also kind of like it's not really a question, but just flag a concern that I have, which is just generally, this is one of those scenarios where this is a really lovely, fairly modest, about 100-year-old home in a row of like similarly scaled, about 100-year-old, kind of like what probably at the time was considered workers' cottages that really kind of defined the character of Rose Street. And I'm saddened by the idea of its loss. I recognize that that's not really a reason to not do it, but I think that it is to swap it and get another single family home is something that I'm not super comfortable with. But I'm looking forward to the site visit, and I would also support the hold.
All right, thanks, Councilor Donovan. At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. And I see that we already have somebody in line. We have two people now. Okay, great. So if you could just, you'll each have 3 minutes and state your name and address. That would be great. We'll start with the person named Gail. And you're on mute, so you could unmute yourself first.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Hi. I'm Gail Larson. I live at 131 Rose Street. I'm sorry that I missed the beginning of the meeting. I thought it was also in person at City Hall, so I went to City Hall. So I missed what Bob had said at the beginning. But when we received the letter from the city over the weekend, that was the first time that I had seen the details of the plan, and went online and saw the engineer's plan. And I'm sorry, Bob and Alex, you guys are great. You've been great friends and great neighbors, but I can't support this.
That's okay.
I'm very concerned by the 2 manholes at the back of the property. Although they're going to be in some fashion above grade, it's going to raise the edge of my property by about 3 feet at the back of the property. I have one of the lowest points on Rose Street. It's my property, and then the one at 135 next to me also gets some flooding at times. And I went to City Hall on Monday and spoke to John Daglian, and he admitted that there could be flooding from the manhole, that in a storm event, the manholes could flood. So now, right now, there's a straight pipe that runs from the back of my yard, the Markowitz property, to diagonally across to the street. There's no means of egress on the property through a manhole or a storm drain otherwise to have water flood my property. And there have been, incidents where that storm drain on Walcott Street has been blocked and it has overflowed into 129, 131, 135, and beyond. And in August of 23, when we had that almost 3 inches of rain in an hour or 2 hours, and the entire city flooded, my backyard was flooded. And 2 manholes are not going to prevent that from geysering up and, coming into my property. So I don't see how this, helps my property at all. I don't see how it helps me. And I'm very concerned about just routine flooding. The reason for the manhole is that, with that kind of an angle, it's not natural for, okay, I have to stop.
You can go ahead. You can finish.
Okay. It's not a natural flow, so that they need the 2 manholes so that it can slowly curve and come all the way along the property. So, when they had initially told me about this plan, I didn't realize there were manholes. If it was a straight pipe, I'd be fine. But I have real concerns that the manholes will flood my property, which is the lowest one next door.
Thank you, Ms. Larson.
You're welcome.
All right. Next, I see Dennis. You state your name and address, please. And you're also on mute. If you could unmute, that would be great.
Hi, Dennis Alves. I live at 370 Walcott Street with my wife, Paulette Bose, and we abut the Benell's property on the opposite side from Gale. First of all, I was asked, Chris Marcus asked me if I would actually read his letter at this meeting, but it sounds like that won't be necessary, especially since there's only 3 minutes. And the only other thing I say is that my concerns have been voiced here, especially the fact that we don't know what the structure will be on the property and how that would affect the pipe. I think it would behoove us to know what the structure will be and see how that might affect the pipe positively or adversely. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Banal?
Yep. I don't even know if I'm muted anymore.
Yeah.
You're not muted.
Okay, sorry about that. I just want to say thank you for everybody's input. And I totally understand everybody's concerns, and we'll just go from there. So I thank you very much.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is keep the public meeting open because for now, and let's see what Councilor Albright, you have your hand up, I see.
Sorry, I just had a quick question for something that Gail said. Sorry to use your first name, but I don't see your last name on the
Larson.
Miss Larson. Did you say that you think that that this bend and the manhole coverage would raise the property on the Benall site and make yours lower? I think that's what you said.
Yes.
Is that your worry?
Well, my property is lower than theirs to begin with, but in order to structurally, they need to raise the elevation on their property around the manholes by, at some points, 3 feet. So there will be a retaining wall, but that's still, my property is going to be the lowest point on that side, and water flows to the low point.
Okay, so I with understanding that that's the concern, when we do the site visit, we need an engineer to explain to us exactly what the plan is, because I would not have picked up a change in grade on Mr. Benall's site just by a site visit. So I think we're going to need somebody to talk to us when we go do that site visit.
Thank you, Councilor Albright. Councilor Daglin? Mr. Daglin?
Thanks for the promotion, but just to clarify, I think Ms. Larson said something about the manholes flooding. The only way the manholes would flood if there was a major blockage in the pipe itself, and the water would build up and then it would come out of the manhole cover. That's the only time the manhole would flood. The proposal does have a retaining wall along the property line, The highest point is 3 feet high where the manhole, where the walls turn about a 45 degrees. And then the rest of the wall tapers down towards the front of the property, down to 1 foot and flush. But I just wanted to clarify that the flooding, if it ever happened, would be when the pipe would be totally clogged and it would back up into the manhole and the water would rise up in the manhole and then come out of the cover. I hope
Thank
that
you.
answers, hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mr. Dagland. Councilor Damaved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I do see the proposed grade change in the section drawing that was submitted, and I hear the concern about the retaining wall and that, but I'm kind of struggling to understand it, without a. I mean, this is basically a proposed grade change for a notional pipe, and presumably, if there were plans drawn up for a new house and landscape, that that exact scenario of grade and retaining wall may differ somewhat from what's been drawn here. Is that right? Fair to assume, I guess.
It could.
I guess I don't know who I'm asking,
Yeah.
Mr. Dagley and the Binals. I'm not really sure, but
Yeah.
just trying to understand,
Keep
what
in
we're
mind-
looking at.
Keep in mind, this is just a schematic preliminary plan that the applicant has come up with.
Right.
If the council, after the site visit, makes a determination that they would support it and vote approval, then they would have to apply for a utility connection permit. That's when we would get very detailed construction plans that show specifications, proper materials, and also the hydraulic flow calculations within the pipe itself. And then when they go for the house construction, that would be another review totally more in detail, requiring on-site stormwater management, and then what impacts this would have to any of the easements.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dagley.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Getz.
I'm looking at the actual map and I'm actually seeing, just interpreting the grade and then the top of wall and the bottom of wall. This wall looks like it's 2.5 feet in the beginning, but the walls are on top of 2 mature trees. If I'm reading this correctly, there's a 24 and a 16 diameter tree, and then there's another cluster of trees. So this is a concern, just in terms of the walls and the impacts on the existing trees. So yes, we are going to definitely, and I would appreciate, and beyond the signing of the, where it is for the proposed, now we're dealing with the proposed retaining wall. So the walls need to be created in order to submerge the pipe. Is that am I interpreting this correctly? Please, this question is directed to Mr. Daglian, just because the retaining walls are there because.
Yeah, they're putting it in there to get the proper cover over the pipe and to get the pipe installed within that easement that they're proposing.
But they need to create the depth in order to submerge the pipe.
Yes.
So you can't go below grade.
It is below grade, but they're actually raising the pipe, the elevation of the pipe a little bit.
Because
So if I can jump in, if you don't mind. So on the right-hand side, where our house is, the grade is higher. So because the pipe is running on that right-hand side, it's underneath the grade currently on the right-hand side of the house. So by going up the left-hand side of the house, because the grade drops in the backyard, then yes, it would have to be raised. Now, if it's possible, I mean, I can go back to my engineer to see if we can possibly run it just on the right-hand side of the house and just push it over further so that we could do an addition, and then it would just be a straight pipe going into Rose Street at that point. Because I do have some property line on the right-hand side of the house. And then the existing house could essentially be renovated and added on to. So that is something we could go down that road as well.
okay.
Councilor Getz.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a possible. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so a lot of questions still. What we're going to do is keep the public hearing open. I think it was Councilor Getz who initially motioned to hold. So I'd like to confirm that first
Yep.
of all.
Yep.
Okay.
Hold on this item.
All right. So there's a motion to hold the item. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that's unanimous. This has been held, and we'll set up a site visit, try to get the camera done before the site visit, and have an engineer with us. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item, 140-26, authorization to accept a grant of $52,000 from Massachusetts Department of Environment Protection Sustainability Materials Recovery Program. His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to accept a grant of $52,000 from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection Sustainability Materials Recovery Program, which will be used for the city's waste diversion efforts. Ms. Sullivan, are you presenting this one?
I am, Counselor. Thank you. So as you just said, I'm here to request the approval of the $52,000 in Mass DEP Recycling Dividend Program grant funds to support the city's waste diversion and recycling efforts. These funds will support eligible recycling services at the Resource Recovery Center, improvements to the city's recycling and organics collection infrastructure, educational materials, and outreach activities. We receive these funds annually, and we use these funds for all of those listed reasons each year. The Recycling Dividends Program rewards municipalities that implement best practices in recycling, reuse, organics diversion, and waste reduction programs. Newton earned 13 qualifying points this year through programs including household hazardous waste collection, our organics programs, our reuse initiatives, outreach and education, and operations at the Resource Recovery Center. These grant funds help offset operational costs while supporting the city's continued commitment to sustainability, waste reduction, and environmental stewardship. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Councilor Gordon.
Thank you, Chair. I just had two questions. I was wondering, out of how many points? 13 out of how many? Do you know?
I will need to get back to you. I believe it's 20, but I need to double check that.
Okay. I was just sort of curious how they do the ranking. And then this is just a process question or a procedure, because the letter says it needs to be accepted by January 15th. So is it something where we accept it and then it comes to committee to formally accept it? I was just curious how that works. Thank you.
It was accepted by the executive office. It was delayed slightly in the docketing process. So we are a little late in this.
Thanks.
All right.
Being new, I just don't know the process. So thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Gordon. Councilor Leary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalis. So this is great, Shauna. There's a lot of good things that are going on in with that department. But I do want to raise a few issues and have some questions, which you may defer to Juanita Trabert, I understand, of course. And I do actually have a meeting scheduled with her. First, I want people to realize that we have a ways to go for best practices for recycling. I was glad to see that we're finally not putting in City Hall all our recycling in plastic bags, which does not get recycled. You might have noticed, well, if you haven't, go look at the green recycling bin in our committee rooms. You'll see that one of the recycling, the black plastic, has been removed because the recyclable cannot be in bags. It has to be free of it. And that's something Juanita worked on, and I'm very happy to see that. We still have a lot of problems in our schools, but I do want to bring up that right now we're having a very high contamination rate in our residential green bins. And you might have remembered a few years, those of us who were on the committee, on the council, a few years ago, this happened and we were getting fined. And we did a pretty robust program where we did some more public education. We actually went out and lifted lids, we put stickers on, and it was effective. And we were able to reduce the contamination rate. We probably need to do something like that again, because the contamination is well above 10%, and it's costing us up to $7,000 a month in kind of fines. So I would like to see some of that money go towards that education and outreach, and I'm happy to volunteer to help with it as well. So that's just my comment. I just wanted to raise that we do have some work to do, and maybe this money can help with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leary. That actually came up when Juanita Kraber presented to us, and she talked about this summer they're going to be actually doing something to reduce the amount of mix. I forget what it's called. Councilor,
Yeah, single
Ms.
stream.
Sullivan. Yes.
We are
Ms.
planning on doing a very robust education and card audit this summer. So we will be hiring some young people and different people to do the audit of the
That's
recycling bins.
That's great. I do want to say, like, if you put if the recyclable is effectively trash, when it goes to the MRF, which in Avon, which Waste Management manages, that those recyclables, the trash, which end up in the trash, and they're probably not recyclable anyway, go to a landfill. And that is a landfill that Waste Management had tried to expand into a state park a number of years ago. So we really do need to work hard, because we can't be having people put their trashy non-recyclables into the green bins. It's very counterproductive and expensive for us. That's my tirade for tonight.
Thank you for that tirade, Councilor Grossman.
Well, first of all, thank you to Councilor Leary and Commissioner Sullivan for that back and forth that hit on points that I wanted to make. So I have one question, and I intend to move approval on this item. So Ms. Sullivan, you had mentioned in your opening comments that because we get this every year and it helps offset the cost of operations, do you essentially treat this money, or does the administration treat the money almost like recurring revenue you count on for the operations of the department, or do you earmark for specific projects? So like what I was going to ask is, knowing you were going to do this robust education program again this summer, would you essentially say, okay, this year's $52,000 we're going to use for X, or does it just really kind of rise up to the top level revenue for your department? And
So we usually use these funds specifically for education or a program that promotes education. It's never for the general fund operating budget, I wouldn't say. It might support the Harvest Fair and what we do there. Like if we were to do a new program at Harvest Fair and we wanted to print materials, things like that. It's not used to support staff or any of our regular operations.
so is it fair to say that this year it will support that summer program? And I don't know the
Yes.
cost of that summer program. I don't know if you know off the top of your head.
It will be used to support the summer program,
Okay.
a portion of it.
Well, motion to approve. Obviously, I see more of our colleagues want to continue commenting, but wanted to put that out there. As I know we have a really full agenda tonight, and I 100% support accepting this money. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grossman. Councilor Damabed.
I'll be quick. Commissioner Sullivan, I heard you mention organics diversion. Does this in any way support our composting efforts or the leaf pickup or anything? How does this relate to that?
So the composting program are organics at the specific sites, like at City Hall and Albemarle. We could use a portion of that to generate flyers to do a promotion on it.
Got it.
That is something we would use these funds for. Our leaf collection is fully funded through our budget.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the letter that was in the packet where we were told we were getting this money, they said that they give away millions of dollars under this program. I was just wondering, is it possible that we could do more and get more money? I don't know what the rules are, what the points stand for, but it seems like if they're giving away millions, maybe we could get some more.
I think the millions refers to outside of this program as well. We do a fairly good job. We expect to gain a point next year, which will be at least a point next year, which will lead to additional funding for this program.
Oh, that's good to know.
Good
Thanks.
question, Councilor Albright. Councilor Leary?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that. And I know Juanita maximizes the points we get every year. So we're not missing out on any money. So this is probably the maximum that we can get. So that, yeah, the millions is the amount they give to all 351 cities and towns.
Well, Commissioner Sullivan said there's 20 points, so there's more points out there.
I said I needed to verify that.
Let's get those points. All right, so there
Yeah.
is a motion to approve from Councilor Grossman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 158-26, appropriation of $345,697.55 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for North and Craft Streets. It is honor the mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $345,697.55 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for design work for intersection improvements at North Street and Craft Street. I think we have our Director of Transportation Planning, Jen Martin.
Yes, and
Welcome.
thank you. And I will keep it brief and then take questions. So first of all, I think many of you are familiar with the underlying Massachusetts Department of Transportation Safe Routes to School infrastructure project planned in this area, which is signalization at Albemarle and Crafts. We continue to hear from residents who are eager for this project to move forward. We received that award in 2020, and the project has been slowly moving along the Mass DOT pipeline since then. So these infrastructure awards are structured as state-administered capital projects. The design and the construction are managed and paid for by Mass DOT. And of course, the city weighs in. We review, we offer our input. The memo has more detail on the history and specifics since 2020 that led to the recommendation to signalize Albemarle and Crafts. As work progressed towards the 25% design and the designer undertook detailed traffic and signal analyses, the designer identified that vehicle queues at the nearby Crafts and North Street traffic signal would spill back on Craft Street into the Albemarle intersection, which created a safety and operational concern. So the signal would act as it does today. So to proceed with signalization at Albemarle and Crafts, funded by the Safe Routes Infrastructure Grant, MassDOT is requiring a new traffic signal at North and Crafts and some simple changes to the intersection geometry to make the intersection operate more efficiently and for the signals to be coordinated with the Albemarle and Crafts signals. So as Chair Kayla stated, we're here tonight to request $345,697.55 in design funding to be able to proceed with both the MassDOT Safe Routes to School project and the North Crafts work. Eventual construction funding will likely be in the range of $1.3 million, and the two projects will proceed together somewhat seamlessly looking from the outside with the same design and the same construction team. So the MassDOT portion of the construction is $1,762,000. Sorry, let me start over with that. $1,762,238. That's the construction funding. MassDOT does the design for their portion of the project as well. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Councilor Albright.
So I'm curious, how did you decide that this particular intersection would be the one that we work on for Safe Routes to School?
So this project predates my involvement. I believe the city and Newton Public Schools applied back in 2019, and it was originally a project. It was Horace Mann Elementary, where NECP is now. And there were significant safety concerns crossing Craft Street to get over towards Horace Mann. We've had students hit there walking or biking to school, over to Day Middle School now. And since that time, since we received the award, even though Horace Mann has moved, we still have Horace Mann families moving through the area. We have since added the new preschool. We've shifted bus operations over onto Albemarle, which has added bus traffic. We did the Albemarle bike lane and back-end parking project. We have a new pool. We have new fields coming online, including a Newton North field. So use has only increased over time. And so it just seemed like a project that we wanted to continue to support, also as a community amenity. And then really trying to alleviate some of the parking burden. What we were hearing before is families who live north of Craft Street were driving their students over to school, which was just putting additional traffic onto our streets. Also, from an operational standpoint, Albemarle will work better as a corridor when that signal is in place. So it'll be easier right now, as you may know. You head north on Albemarle, then you quickly take a left onto Craft Street, and then almost do a U-turn to get on the other side of the river, headed south. So the signal will also really improve traffic operations.
That's great. So I know it's a very congested area and there's a lot going on. So I absolutely would like to move approval on this when the time comes.
Thank you, Councilor Albright. Councilor Getz.
In the document, I had a question specifically about a cost, the direct expenses on page 19 of the Howard Stern Hudson piece. And I don't even know if it's the fees for service. And it's just the table. And there's one specific piece in here that's the Massachusetts Certified General Real Estate Appraiser Allowance of $20,000. And I don't know what that's about. So I'm just curious.
Okay.
If you know what that is, please let us know. Yep.
It's discussed further up in the memo. Let me pull up that section.
Oh, so it's actually broken down then. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I can go back into it. I flagged it because I was reading through the table and it was like, I was curious what that is what that allowance is for.
Yeah, it's on page 5. And so this gets into the right-of-way that's needed for the project, and they don't know what right-of-way work will be needed until they're further along in design. And so the allowance is there in case we need to do some right-of-way work. And if we don't, then we won't pay those costs.
And so what happens with those dollars? If in fact, do they just get held and then they're held in this, with any of these costs? If it doesn't, or if they're not used, then those dollars go back into the general fund? I just don't know.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Maybe Shauna does.
I can look into it.
Shauna, do you know?
Oh, Councilor Grossman might know.
Okay.
I don't know. I had another question.
Oh, go ahead, Councilor Grossman.
Well, let me see if somebody else wants to answer the other one before I change course.
Is this city money that's paying for this or grant money?
Yeah, no, it's city money.
So it would go back, any city money that eventually finds its way back to the general fund if it's not reallocated to another project.
Okay, right. So my questions sort of, I think, pick up on where this conversation is going. I'm a little bit confused about the dollars and cents here. So if I'm understanding correctly, this originated quite a while ago as an application to Mass DOT, and there's some funding for Mass DOT associated with this. Can you help clarify for me what is the funding we're getting from Mass DOT and what exactly does that funding do?
Okay. And so we actually don't get any dollars from Mass DOT. So Mass DOT is fully doing the design of Albemarle and Crafts. And that work has been ongoing since 2021. We had a 10% concept design. We had a road safety audit, which maybe some of you were involved in. I was through Safe Routes to School. That was 2022. And then now they're working on 25% design. So they are fully taking care of the design. I don't know what those costs are. I don't think they're shared publicly. Mass DOT is also, so this is the design for Albemarle and Crafts. Mass DOT also will fully fund and construct the Albemarle Craft signals. And that is programmed right now at $1.7 million for construction. What Newton would be doing is funding.
Hold on, wait. So the 1.7 million for construction, they're funding that?
Yes. And
Okay.
we aren't getting money. That is the cost to them for construction, and they are doing the construction.
And we get to approve that plan and construction or no?
I believe so. That might be a question for Commissioner Sullivan.
Do you know
Commissioner
that?
Sullivan, do we approve the design from Mass DOT?
I believe it depends on what the design is. I don't know if there are lane changes there. Yes, of course you do. You will have to, I don't know if they've already accepted the grant funds. Jen would have a better sense of that. Has this gone to council for crafts?
So we are not getting grant funds. It's because it's fully Mass DOT.
So has this gone to council yet for crafts at Albemarle?
I don't know. That would be back in 2020.
Well, it sounds to me like it may not have come to us. If there weren't any grant funds for us to accept, I don't know that we would have been asked to take any action.
Who would have thought traffic council would have seen this?
So, I mean, I'll just sort of voice a concern that I have. I'm always a big fan of leveraging investment that we can get from other sources for safety improvements in general. I suppose the two things that, just give me a little bit of pause are that having just, well, we're not even really fully completed, but having just been through the Mass DOT work on Hammond Pond Parkway, while a lot of it is lovely and an improvement, there are elements of it, particularly where it interfaces with Newton Roads, that we didn't necessarily have a tremendous amount of say over, that have added a lot of confusion and congestion to how traffic moves through that intersection, particularly where like Hobart, Hammond Pond Parkway, and like Beacon meet. So that's just sort of one thing that I'm just a little bit wary of just completely trusting Mass DOT to do whatever they say they get to do. And I see Ms. Sullivan, Commissioner Sullivan, you have something to add. So
Do you want to
go ahead
say
if you want to before I finish?
that was a Department of Conservation and Recreation project at Hammond Pond Parkway. They weren't great at their public engagement there, I will admit that. And they didn't really come to us on that project.
Well, right, and like my concern is just, they sort of like did things without without sort of our say. And while it functions, well for the Hammond Pond Parkway element of it, the interfacing of that, for the rest of us. And that's not to say that will necessarily happen here. I'm just sort of pointing that out as kind of a concern when we abdicate responsibility to a third party.
So I think,
go ahead, Commissioner.
I think planning and DPW work together to make sure that we have plenty of community engagement, and we will at least provide you with all of the information. And if there was disagreement, obviously you could docket an item to have us come in and go through everything.
Which I mean, as long as we sort of knew and know how this was progressing, that maybe at some point between when this initial application went through and today we did hear it. If we did, I forgot about it.
It was ages ago.
Right. Yeah. And I guess my only other kind of concern / question is if we obviously are very intentional, and I know in your department you're incredibly intentional about ranking all of our various intersections and where they fall in order of priority. So I suppose this is a question, but also a comment. The question portion being, if we were just ranking this today, totally devoid of involvement from any third party, where would it rank? And I guess the only other thing I'll say, because I've sort of been noodling on this a little bit since we talked about the Newton Highlands project, is, I mean, we're talking almost $350,000 in design fees, and then another 1.3, I think it said, for construction. It's a lot of money. I mean, I know safety improvements cost a lot of money. But there are these really big ticket items in a period of time where we're constantly trying to be so deeply intentional about our prioritization. I mean, that said, I'm never going to say no to safety improvements. It's just to let you know some of the struggles that I'm having as we deal with this project and other similarly situated ones.
Thanks, Councilor Grossman. As far as I know, though, Councilor, Ms. Martin, this was already approved. The first part of it, Albemarle and Crafts was already done, is already done. I mean, not done, but it's already going to be paid for by the state, right?
Yes, it's already going to be
But
paid for by the state only if we also approve
Right.
the North Crafts portion and move forward on that. They
Right.
explored alternative concept designs and nothing was really a fit for Albemarle and Crafts. Nothing that we could move forward on other than the work at North and Crafts.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that. Councilor Damabet?
Oh, wait, could I just get an answer? I think Commissioner Sullivan had her hand up to the question part of it of like, where would this
Oh,
rank?
go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm all set.
I will double check because it was ranked before we had received this funding from the state. I'm happy to verify what that ranking was. I suspect it was probably at least in the top 5. There were a number of accidents in that area
Well,
that would
that
drive
helps
the
me
priority.
feel. That gives me some comfort. Well, I mean, not that there were accidents. Obviously, that's terrible. But the fact that it was rated highly, I get uncomfortable when we're out there telling the public we stick to this plan and then things jump the plan. So that's all.
So at Albemarle and Crafts, we've had a number of accidents at that bridge with people coming down the hill at high speed. One
Okay.
person ended up over the bridge.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Commissioner. Councilor Damabet?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I totally understand the need for safety improvements here. Actually, every time I drive on Crafts, I kind of think to myself, oh wow, like it feels like I should not be able to go as fast as like the sort of traffic or the roadway alignment allows it to go, or a person to go. My only question was, Miss Martin, I saw the sort of 10% or maybe 25% schematic drawing in the backup. Is there a way that we could see somewhere just the sort of Crafts and North, the whole Albemarle Crafts North intersection, sort of double intersection as one drawing to help us just understand how these all fit together?
Do you mean a design of that?
Yeah, I guess it sounded like the Albemarle and Crafts intersection has been designed.
It has not been designed.
Not even to this sort of 10% schematic level.
So they have 10% schematic level of a different schematic. They were looking at other options to move forward. I'm not sure so 10% design is one designer, then it shifts to another designer for 25% design. Not sure where they're at with plans that they can share. They had brought forward some designs without signalization that we have seen, and those designs just weren't going to meet the needs of the project and really would have backed traffic up a lot in different directions. So we did not move forward on that. I'm not sure where they are in the 25% design with signalization because they really needed to know if we were willing partners on this.
Gotcha.
And we sort of have a geometric sketch of what North and Crafts would look like, but really sort of an hour spent on CAD and not more detailed than that.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, well, I guess whenever the time comes and we're at the appropriate level, it would be helpful to just see it as one drawing, the whole, because they're so close to each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gordon?
Thank you, Chair Kalis. Again, learning about this, how things work here. There's one quote for all these different elements. Is that because this is who you've selected and you've already gone through previous quotes from other companies?
No, so this is the designer of Albemarle and Crafts, and in order to move forward on this project, we need to move forward with the same designer. We worked with them on the scope. We made sure these were elements that were a fit for the project. But if we were to select a different designer, then we would lose out on the efficiency of moving forward as a single project. So the meetings with staff, we'd have to have 2 sets of meetings with staff for the 2 different projects. We'd have to make sure that the 2 designers were coordinating with each other. They're using a lot of the work that they've done for Albemarle and Crafts to do this design here, so we didn't feel like there was another option.
That makes sense to me. So when you first selected them, you looked at different companies though.
So this is Mass DOT.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
Mass
so they
DOT
selected
selected
it.
them.
Okay.
I
So
imagine they looked at different
you sort of,
designers. Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to understand that process. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Albright?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think that part of the problem here is that we have a lot of new people in city government that weren't here at the beginning of this. And given that information, I think it would have been very useful to provide more background in the information that came to the council. And even there's a statement at the beginning of this memo to us that it's unsettling a little bit. It says, planning and DPW are in agreement that the anticipation is that DPW will manage the project as they are best able to provide oversight given the nature of the project. So that's very unsettling way to say that. And it comes from a new acting director of planning and a relatively new deputy commissioner of public works. So I think you're going to have to take into account that there's a lot of city staff that are new, a lot of counselors that are new, and when you write us a memo, give us more background, please. That's I think something that will help things go through the council a whole lot easier if we have more information is better than less. I guess that's what I'm trying to suggest.
Good
And
points, Councilor Albright.
And I don't even understand what that first paragraph means, that you may be able to do this management, but hopefully it's a little bit more affirmative than that.
Commissioner Sullivan, I'll let you answer that.
So the Department of Public Works will provide construction oversight for this project. I want to be clear on that because our department has the expertise to ensure that it is done correctly.
Yeah, the wording was poor on my part. We were talking about if should planning oversee this or DPW, and because it is a geometric changes and a traffic signal, it made the most sense to Commissioner Sullivan and Acting Director Katie Wewell that this would be a good project for Commissioner Sullivan and her team to oversee the work of, because it is construction and traffic signals.
That sounds very good. I'm appreciative of that decision. Thank you.
Thank you all. Note to self, don't use the word may in a memo to councilors. Councilor Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to put this in context, I recall that we closed off part of one section of Albemarle Road between Craft and North Street. That was the beginning of this discussion, right, and this whole plan. I also remember spending a good hour one morning on the side of the road watching the traffic during school time with former Councillor Downs and another person from, I think, Safe Routes to School.
That was me.
That was you. Okay, Jen, I thought it might be you, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is crazy. It was one of the worst things I'd ever seen, with all the parents driving to school, people crossing. And so that had to have been 4 years ago, was it? About 4 years ago. So this whole thing started. Okay. So I fully, agree that this needs to get done. And I have confidence in Howard Stein Hudson and Mass DOT to move forward with this, especially with the oversight of our DPW. I think it will be a significant improvement and I will support it. But one question I do have, because people are sort of confused about, well, when does DOT just plow ahead and tell us this is what we're doing, or not even give us any information, like Hammond Pond Parkway? But on the other hand, when I was chair of this committee, we had the carriageway project, Con Ave in Auburndale, which is related to their whole bridge replacement project, which includes, it's still underway, but people have seen already that most of Commonwealth Avenue has been done. And they worked with us very closely. They came to a lot of meetings. So why was the Hammond project different? I'm just curious, as opposed to when we work so closely with them during this other project, the Commonwealth Road project and the bridge project.
Mr. Sullivan.
Happy to answer that because Hammond Pond Parkway was a different department of the state. It was DCR versus Mass Department of Transportation.
So DCR just gets to plow through and do what they want, and MassDOT has to participate in a project with us. It just seems kind of
It is department with two different
random.
approaches to working with municipalities.
Okay, I mean, did
DCR did hold hearings in the very beginning when they were designing the project. I don't know how many they had, but I don't think it was a significant amount. MassDOT generally does a good job of working with us throughout the project.
Yes, they do. So maybe we should develop a better relationship with DCR. Not that they do that much work. I can't imagine there's going to be another Hammond Pond Parkway coming up recently in the future. But
They did get better as the project went along. I believe they had monthly or bi-monthly meetings with Director of Transportation Ned Codd and Associate City Engineer John Daglian.
Okay. Well, I have to say, I think that it is a big improvement, but I would like it that they work more closely with the city. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Councilor Leary. Councilor Getz?
Yeah, the only comment I would make is that, yeah, maybe we do need to spend a little bit of time trying to, working with DCR, because I am concerned about what they potentially are going to propose for Quinnipiac. And it's difficult for, the public meetings are a little standoffish. And I remember when we were going through the Hammond Pond Parkway review, they're pretty intense. It was just this kind of thing where it was happening to the city. But so maybe there is a way that we can, in some way, get the information out to the community or the residents that are directly affected, so that then there's a better sort of understanding among those abutters and those people of what's going to happen. Because I do think that that would be an important job for us. But, going back to, the work that's up on Com Ave, that's a huge project, and it's been pretty good. But, it's the kind of thing where it's been there for a long time. And then the other one is the Circle of Death, the work that's there. So the getting some sort of platform out there so that people can go to and interpret what's planned and, what the schedule is, I think would be helpful.
Right. Councilor Gordon?
Thank you, Chair Kalis. I just wanted to echo, Raina said some of what I was going to say. I went to the DCR meetings that they had for Hammond Pond Parkway, but they were very big. It was hard to participate, and they were not publicized almost at all. So I would just second what Raina said about trying to get more willing work with them. But they did have meetings.
Thank you, Councilor Gordon. All right, so there's a motion by Councilor Albright to approve on this. Councilor Albright, you still want to do that?
Yes.
All right. So there's a motion to approve on this. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so that passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is 161-26, the appropriation of $142,370 from Energy Stabilization Fund for LED project at Day Middle School. His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $142,370 from the Energy Stabilization Fund for an LED lighting project at Day Middle School. And I think we're being joined by Co-Director of Sustainability, Sam Nyman, and Commissioner Alex Valcarce. Lisa Pennell, yes.
Yes, I just want to quickly make a note that this item was originally further down in the agenda, but because it's Mr. Nyman's only item, it felt appropriate to push it up.
Thank you for saying that. I just jumped to it. All right. Can I ask, Counselor Getz, did you have a question before we
No, I
begin?
was just saying you jumped to the agenda, and so I
Oh,
thank
yeah, I'm sorry.
Lisa for for you know
That doesn't mean we're skipping things. I'm sorry.
for
All right. So let's go to the commissioner or to co-director Sam Nyman.
Why don't I lead off? Because you threw me a curveball too. We have some backup. I can share my screen, if that's good.
Sure.
And now I have to go to that item because I had these all in order. And it's way down here. I apologize. Okay. All right. All right. You want to go ahead, Sam?
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, counselors. So we are requesting to spend $142,370 from the Energy Stabilization Fund to do a full LED lighting retrofit at FA Day Middle School. The total project cost here is $256,000, just over that. So we're getting a mass save incentive of about $114,000. It's a pretty good deal, about 45% off the total project cost. Over at Day, over the years, we've updated some of the lighting there. I think it was maybe a decade ago, we did a small project primarily on the third floor. And then since then, NPS Facilities side has done kind of a little bit of lighting here or there, but the majority of the building is still kind of old fluorescence. So switching it all over to efficient LED lighting is estimated to save NPS about $39,000 annually in estimated electricity, as well as some maintenance costs. Just this past spring, we finished up a similar scale LED project at the Ed Center, which this council approved last year. So with your approval, we're excited to move forward here, knock this one out this summer. Look forward to any questions.
Thank you. Counselor Albright.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm glad that we're continuing to do this because there's that $114,000 is great to support this project. And I hope we'll keep moving along through the rest of our buildings. It's good for the school, good for our final budget lines. And I absolutely want to move approval on this one.
Great. Counselor Leary.
Yes, I'm also very happy to have this and we'll also vote approval for it. I was just wondering, Mr. Nyman, if with the proposed cuts to Mass Save, what kind of impact will that have on future city projects if that goes through?
It's a good question, Counselor. On the lighting front, at least, it won't have any impact for not a good reason, which is that they were already planning for the incentives for lighting to expire this coming November 1st. So we've known about that for some time, and they actually expired for kind of broader commercial or residential lighting jobs maybe a year and a half ago now, but they extended it for municipalities. So we've been able to take advantage of that extension to knock out a couple good-sized projects here. We knew we wanted to at least get one more good one in here this year. So that's what we're here for tonight. More broadly, Mass Save has been great for our ability to kind of, we do work in our buildings and then we get these incentives. Sometimes, like here, we use it directly to offset the project cost. Sometimes it comes back to us and we're able to use it for future work. We'll have to see exactly what the cuts, if there are, in fact, some that are passed, what that may amount to And we'll go from there. Obviously, we'll be always trying to take advantage of the largest rebates we can. So, yeah.
I was
Thank you,
just
Mr.
wondering, as the LED is being phased out, is that separate from the proposed $1 billion cut? Because I think they cut it the year before as well.
So this cut, or the kind of phasing out of incentives related to LEDs, I believe it's been sort of, it's going to happen at the end of this year. It's going to happen for the last like maybe 2 years, and they've extended it twice. And so I think this kind of phase out, it sort of makes sense from the perspective of you don't necessarily need this kind of incentive to incentivize the adoption of LED lighting so much anymore.
Because it saves so much money, right?
This is kind of just normal lighting these days. If you're doing
Right,
lighting,
and everybody
this is the
has
kind of
probably
lighting.
made that transition. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Leary and Mr. Nyman. Any other comments on this one? All right. So there's a motion to approve by Councilor Albright. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that passes. I'm going to go back to 136-26, and I won't go out of order again. Sorry. All right, so this one is going to be amended as well. So the authorization to appropriate and expend $1,250,000 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for Newton South High School feasibility design phase. His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $1,250,000 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for Newton South High School feasibility design phase. All right. So, Mr. Valcarce, are you presenting on this one, and COO Morse?
Yes. So,
Before we start, Councilor Albright, did you have a question preliminarily?
No. I'll wait.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead. Thank you.
Unless the COO wants to do some introduction, I can start.
The floor is yours, Commissioner.
Thank you. So, as you said, we are looking to fund and get started on a feasibility study for Newton South High School to get that going and look at the items, the systems in the building condition, work on an ed program. I think there's a big need to upgrade science rooms and get that program going. I know that many of you have gone through this, but I was going to speak a little more in detail since we have 3 of these on what this phase is. So our feasibility phase will be to get an owner's project manager on board. The owner's project manager is basically an extension of Public Buildings. We are managing all of the moving parts. They are doing the day-to-day management. They're managing communications. They help us in organizing and creating the request for qualifications for design services. They process monthly reports and look at proposals and help us evaluate consultants' fees. They, have the budgets. They do cost estimating, and we'll be doing scheduling and those things. So in this phase, it's mostly doing a lot of planning work and figuring out what we're doing, the educational program, and coming up with that feasibility concept to get consensus, from a majority. The designer, almost, a little obvious, but they're doing the architectural work in terms of planning the spaces, working on the education program, with the educators, making sure that the program, how does it laid out, how does it work? Again, you know, we have multiple schools in construction right now, Countryside, Franklin. We've had, I think, Newton, we've probably hired most of the leading public school firms in this area in the past. They also have basic services, and they will look at, you know, as appropriate to the level of feasibility and schematic, civil engineering, landscaping. There'll be structural, budgetarily, you know, set up and review, again, with mechanical systems and those things. At the feasibility phase is how to, you know, make sure that we're blocking it out and carrying the what we need in terms of the space and those elements. Again, they also bring to the table cost estimating. We always have a cost estimator from our owner's project manager and from our designer, and then those cost estimates get reconciled, and we make sure everybody has this, understands the scope, and there's clarity, and then, you know, they each bring to the table their experience, and we are able to, you know, get a budget in a line that we are, make sure that we continue to work and set the design according to our budget. So there's lots of other components, you know, in their, what they do. They, you know, have their own consultants that do library and media and code consultants and accessibility. And so that's that piece of the work. So they, obviously their fee is the larger portion. Then under site and environmental, there are some things that we do. We'll get site survey, either we'll hire them directly or they'll be hired through the designer, but generally site and environmental work comes from the owner. It's outside of the architect's basic services. So site survey, geotechnical borings, a limited set of analysis of the ground to see what it supports and where the water table and those things are. And then geoenvironmental, some preliminary soil sampling to understand what the ground is and if we have any issues there, and hazmat surveys of the inside of the building. And other is basically related expenses, could be mailings or fees or things that we pay, and contingencies. This format really came out of the format that the MSBA uses, which we started back when we did Ainger in 2011. We've progressed and used this very successfully both in our MSBA and non-MSBA school projects, and in fact in our municipal projects as well. Our budget is determined based on having done these and what it takes to, you know, come up with a feasibility and schematic design. Of course, if we can't get somewhere and can't give direction, then at some point, you know, we may have to look at it. But typically, you know, with the right design firms, we are able to meet our budget and get through our costs. So that's in, you know, in a little more detail of what these line items are. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you for that explanation. And I assume that applies to all three of these, your approach?
Yeah, yes. So barring differences in site, the police station site has a very big culvert that runs right through the middle of the parking lot. So geotechnical work might, you know, eventually, and then as we progress, you know, this is the first phase. And then when we figure out what we're doing, we'll go getting the budget and then getting fees and amending our contract, and as our projects go. And for police, of course, it's not an educational program, it's their operational program. So they have, you know, traffic and detention and evidence, and, you know, there's just a whole different set of circumstances. But yes, the types of things that people do, that these groups do, are basically the same.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Albright, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So I want to start by saying that I'm glad we're doing some work at Newton South because I know Newton South has needed work for a very long time, particularly the science labs. But this afternoon, earlier this year, I went and a number of us went to the Brown Middle School to see their PTO school committee conversation about Brown Middle School. And we saw that Brown could use a little love. It's really in bad shape in many ways. And I was surprised because I thought that I heard that Brown was the next biggest and most important building to be tackled by the school committee. So I called some school committee folks this afternoon and asked them, how come it's Newton South and not Brown? And they have not been asked about this. So my hope is that the mayor will have a conversation with the school committee about this project. Because, according to I looked at their long-term plan that they approved back in the fall or early winter, and Brown was the next school, and then Newton South came next. So yeah, it's high up on the list, but Brown was. The school committee needs to be involved in the decision to do Newton South. So maybe it's my prior school committee hat that I've been wearing this afternoon, but I think the school committee should be asked if this is what they want to do, and if so, what do they want to do? The memo that we got said in addition renovation, and I just was wondering if you could just talk a bit more about the scope. Might we end up tearing down Newton South? Is it maybe making new additions? What is the scope of this project?
So I see you, Councilor Moore, COO Morse. Do you want to jump in first, or do you, Mr. Valcarce, do you want to answer first?
I will let the COO speak first.
Okay.
All right. I was just going to say thank you, Councilor Albright. I just want to let you know that, and this is different than a conversation with the entire school committee, but we have been working for quite some time with Superintendent Nolan and school committee leadership on moving forward with feasibility for Newton South High School. I will certainly go back and check the school committee meetings to see if that has gone out in correspondence, either through the superintendent or otherwise, but
I spoke to the chair, Mr. Morse. There's no official agreement from the school committee to go ahead and do this. I'm sure they will agree, but it should be a step in the process. That's all.
Oh, I hear you. And certainly, as you know all too well, you served on our working groups and building committees, school committee, and this is really probably the point you're making. The school committee has have a role in this. So.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Morse.
Could you just tell me a little bit more about the scope of the project?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And Alex, I'll give you my take, and then feel free to jump in. But we oftentimes will say, and Councilor Albright will know this one, the feasibility study is where we get the answers to all of those types of questions. But what I will say from a high level scope standpoint, what we know is the science wing is very limited. That's been a conversation that predates my time in Newton. So it goes back many decades. We also know that there are some building systems that are reaching their end of useful life that we're going to need to upgrade. There's restrooms and accessibility. So we've got a fair amount of work there. It is not, we are not at this point considering a full demolition of Newton South High School. I think I'm looking at it more of a strategic investment. I think part of the reason why we included addition is so that we have that flexibility, because we don't know what we don't know yet, and a lot of that will become more clear as we move forward with feasibility.
Okay, thank you, and I'm sure that you will go ahead and get some official word from the school committee on your way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just because I'm also sensitive to the fact that we have some new counselors on the committee. Not only would we be connecting with the school committee in short order, but school committee also has to vote a little further down the line to set the program, which is a step during feasibility as well. That's where they're establishing things like design enrollment, and the entire program document, which really for a school program identifies, what are the science programs that it needs to support? What are the technologies programs that it needs to support? How do we do that? So there's going to be a lot of working with Newton Public Schools on that before it gets presented and voted on by the school committee.
Thank you. Is our chair still here?
It looks like he stepped away from his computer.
My
I see him coming. There he is.
Sorry. I thought Alex would be talking now, so.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I think the COO covered it.
Okay, great. Counselor Getz.
Thank you so much. I actually really appreciate the breakdown that the commissioner made, in terms of just defining each of these components in terms of the budgets. Because this is the first sort of exposure for me in terms of this breakdown. And it sort of feels like, in terms of you guys all probably know this, and as you've lived it, it seems as if in fact you have an owner's project management team, how many people are involved? What is the timeline, and how do they report out, and who controls the budget? I know none of this. So I really appreciate, just this door opening up, just out of like, is it mostly contracted out? Do, subsets of teams meet and then report out, what they've found? I know nothing about this process. And so it's really fascinating to me, but it was great to hear your breakdown because it really kind of defined all of the components.
You had some great points, and I kind of skipped along, but the owner's project manager is selected just like the way we select our designers. We will put out a request for qualifications. It's a qualifications-based selection process. Those submittals will go to our standing designer selection committee, and then they will meet and discuss and rank out the submittals. In the request for qualifications, there's a whole ranking system that's explained. And then based on their ranking, they will make a recommendation to interview at least 3 firms. Typically, it depends on the number of responses, but typically it would be the top 3. And then after those interviews, we could interview more candidates if we have them, or they could make a determination again through the ranking system, through the scoring system. And then the designer selection committee makes a recommendation to the mayor's office, to the mayor, on who they believe is the best candidate for the position for that role. And then the mayor can make the final decision and give his approval. Then you negotiate the fee. So, it's public work and everybody kind of knows basically where you're going to be. And they're part of the team. There'll be someone at our school building committee meetings. They'll be at our working group meetings. They will be, if we're at planning at the time we get the site plan approval, or if we have to go to Concom or historic. And then they're evaluating the cost and the cost estimates, and as the designer is designing it, we're managing them, and our role, along with the other members of the school building committee, the working group, Newton Public School staff, is to guide them into what it is that we are trying to solve in Newton. So we don't give them the solution, we give them the problem, and then we tell them, we have a particular way that our ed program works. So as you're working on the ed program and coming up with the space analysis, we have that input. Again, we in buildings provide the input on process and where do we go and who do we talk to and who do we see and what are all the steps that we're going to do along the way. So That's basically how they're working. And then along the way, we will come to public facilities for an update, and we'll give you a progress update on where we are. And the whole team will be there to provide an update on budget or schedule or the design, whatever the appropriate things are.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Grossman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you have a hope as to how long the feasibility stage will last, or sort of a target conclusion date for this phase?
I don't have a target date. I would say between onboarding the owner's project manager and the designer, and we have some steps to do for getting a working group, and there's and school building committee. I'm gonna say maybe in at best 12 to 18 months. Maybe we're there in 12 to 18 months. Again, it depends on building consensus, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of input. But I would say at the moment that would be my sort of general direction.
Okay, and you just touched on my next question, which was, I assume that assuming this funding is approved, that after it's approved in pretty short order thereafter, a working group will be formed.
Yes, I imagine that we would get started working on those things.
Okay. I mean, of course, I'm always looking at it through the lens of money, and Councillor Albright hit on sort of where my mind is at. I every single one of these projects is different, and I am very familiar with your process, and I know how incredibly thoughtful and thorough it is, and I have every confidence that this project will be that too. But I also know that when these things get started, there's usually some kind of an idea or a vision in the mayor's mind of what exactly we're trying to achieve and within approximately what budget. I get the sense you've probably shared about as much as you can along those lines, but I'll ask anyway. Any ballpark idea of what kind of dollars we're talking about, and whether whether this is something that could potentially be done within the confines of the free cash and money we have, or if this is, we're definitely looking towards some sort of a debt exclusion on this.
I'm happy to jump.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm happy to jump in on this one. So I would say that at this stage, it's a little premature for any of us to feel comfortable putting a number out there. And quite frankly, I would say the same thing for any of the projects that we're going to talk about tonight. We haven't even begun the pre-feasibility study yet. So without knowing the square footage that we're doing, I can't even use square foot cost and escalate. I will say, just so that I'm sharing what's in my mind with Newton South, it's a high school. It's a big building. There are portions of the building that are in really solid shape. There are other portions of the building that need love. I think the South High project is going to be one where we're going to need to work really hard together with the working group and the building committee to make sure that it doesn't get out, doesn't slip out of our hands, because it's a project that could grow pretty quickly. I think the trick there will be to invest strategically. And I'm also, again, in the interest of full transparency, also thinking towards the fact that we don't have a swing high school. So we're going to want to think about how we do that with students in the building. So all the more reason to make sure that we're being very thoughtful about our approach to the scope. And it's for those complexities that I wouldn't be comfortable putting a number on it yet. I don't believe this is a free cash project. I think it will be more than that. And I would say that we are going to explore opportunities to partner with the state. And then, as you mentioned, Councillor Grossman, the mayor's been pretty forthcoming about the need to fund these large capital improvements with debt exclusion override. So we'd be eventually seeking the support of the community as well.
I appreciate that. And as I was listening to you, Commissioner Valcarce, and you, COO Morse, the main thought that came to my mind is that I'm looking at two of the finest public servants out there in the world to work on this project and all of the other, very meaningful and important projects that you have on our agenda tonight. There are not two other people out there that I would trust more than the two of you, and I know that we're in excellent hands, as stewards bringing us through this process. You also know I believe so much in investing in these buildings, and I wish we could do more for more buildings sooner. It does, of course, bother me that it's more time to get to Brown, and obviously we have a lot more to do in elementary schools. It's a little daunting thinking about the tasks yet to come. I highly support this. I would just love, and I know that you will, for you to just keep us as informed as possible as this all evolves. And I know that you will also look at every possibility, but I guess I'd also just encourage you to genuinely look at every possibility. And as I said, I know you kind of go in with kind of a picture or an idea at the beginning of what it might be. But if we're going to do something of a pretty big magnitude here, it's going to be a very long time before Newton South High School gets touched again. So I know you understand that it's important that we do it right. So I'm happy to move approval on this. Obviously, there's a lot of other comments, but my motion is on the table when you're ready to take a vote, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Grossman. Councilor Gordon.
Thank you, Chair Kalis. I just want to say that when Mayor Laredo addressed the state of Newton, I was incredibly excited to hear that this was happening. I'm a Newton South graduate, and both my children recently graduated from Newton South. And it was very frustrating to be told over and over and over again that Newton North and Newton South were equal in any fantasy that is just not true. And so I'm very, very appreciative that this project is going to, that there will be a feasibility study. I want to just say, I hope you'll also look not just at sort of the science wing and the academic side, the Voc Tech programs there. Kids can only go so far. And then what they're told is if you want to continue, say, with being a chef or working in kitchen arts, then you have to go over to Newton North. And it's not a realistic thing. There's not enough time in the day for kids to be going from south to north and then back to south. So I don't know if it's true or not, but there is a nice kitchen at Newton South that was supposed to be upgraded to sort of be on the same caliber as North. And they said it was a bad snow year and that's where all the funding went. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I would urge you to be looking also at some of those Voc Tech programs and the facilities they have, and also the music and theater. There are award-winning programs at South, and they really do a great job with not the best resources there. So I just want to thank you both, Mr. Morse and Mr. Valcarce, because I think this is worth the investment in looking at what we can do there and making sure that all the kids who go to the other high school in Newton also have great resources. My kids would comment on some of the really poor facilities there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gordon. Mr. Morse, do you want to respond?
I was just going to say very briefly, I don't want anybody thinking that we would approach the feasibility phase with a narrow mind at all. That phase includes looking at the entire school, every square foot, and outside the school. So we approach that very broadly. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Councilor Dumabit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, and I just wanted to reiterate the compliments for Commissioner Valcarce and for COO Morse. You're both doing really great work, just from what I've seen in my short time here already.
Great.
Um,
I'll go on to Councilor Leary then.
No,
I'm kidding.
it's hopefully a quick question. I just noticed that it's a little bit about the budget here. The budgets for these three feasibility studies are all exactly the same. And I was curious if you could just kind of explain a little bit about that. Is this sort of like a prepackaged budget that we go with? Because to me, these projects would seem to have different scales and scopes. Um, but so I just like kind of like to understand the thinking here.
Yeah, the budget that we come up with is one that we have used successfully, to manage it, and we can make all the steps. Now, if we can't get traction and we spend a long time on South, then eventually the consultants are going to say, okay, we laid it out. This was how we were approaching it. This was the expectation. We would spend this much time. And then, we have to revisit. We have to be able to give them direction in order for them to stay on schedule. So it's a bit formulaic, but we have made it work, and I'm confident that we will.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Leary?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, I support all these requests, and I'm happy to do so. I just had a couple of questions, particularly on the school projects. I would really be helpful for me to get more information on the proposal for the elementary schools for Ward and Underwood, item 138-26. Is this going to be a proposal for two individual schools? Is it going to be a proposal for a combined school project? I just want to know, I know you like to start very broad, but I'd like to know if what you're thinking right now with what this is going to look like in terms of the whole proposal for those two schools. And one other thing I want to mention also is I feel like with the school projects, there hasn't been enough effort made to improve school sustainability. I would like to see all schools have focus on reuse and have dishwasher capacity. So that's really important to me. And also that they're designed in such a way to focus on sustainable needs, such as organics or food diversion or food waste, which we're moving to and will be forced to, and the state will lower the threshold to 0.5 ton a week, which will probably include both high schools for sure. So in terms of working with custodians and what it would look like to separate recyclables and to do and divert food waste, I think that should be part of the proposals for any buildings that deal with food waste as well, and really focus on reducing, reusing, and getting away from single-use plastics, which is a problem. We still have ketchup packets at North, and that's one of the reasons why it's such a problem to divert food waste, because of the contamination, and Black Earth won't take it. So those are a couple things. So just really those two issues, the sustainability issue, and what's this design going to look like for Ward and Underwood?
So Chair, would you like me to take the Ward Underwood
that'd
question
be good.
now, or when you take that item up?
You can answer it now. I think that'll help.
Okay, all right. So Mayor Laredo tasked me with kind of doing an analysis of the consolidation of Ward and Underwood. I am going to be making a presentation to the school committee, I believe on June 1st. And I will be doing a community meeting later this month. We'll be picking that date pretty soon. So I'm still working on that report. Ultimately, what the feasibility funding would cover is, should the recommendation be to consolidate, then the feasibility funding would include would further the analysis of consolidation. I want to be very clear, though, that would be a decision of the school committee, not of me. or the mayor, if the recommendation that I make to the school committee is that we do not consolidate, again, it would be their decision. If they were to decide that we would not consolidate, it is my expectation that they would move forward with a recommendation for Ward to go first based on their long-range facilities plan. And in that case, the feasibility funds would advance the Ward School project, and down the road, we would be looking at an Underwood School project. So.
Okay, I believe that you would have to rule out consolidation one way or the other, either decide on it or rule it out before you could move to the discussion about two separate schools.
Yeah, so to be clear, what would happen is I would make a recommendation to the school committee in the scenario in which they ultimately decide not to consider consolidation. Then that would be it. That would be the school committee ruling that out for us. And then at that point, the feasibility study would progress and it would advance the Ward School project. And again, I'm making some assumptions there. The school committee needs to vote. I certainly don't want to get out ahead of that.
Right, I understand. So do you have any idea of the timeline where this decision will happen? Is it many, many months? Is it a year? Is it?
I would anticipate that the school committee would likely make a decision later in June.
You're in June?
Yes.
That seems awfully quick. I mean, for the elementary school feasibility design, which hasn't even been how far has that gone? Would we have started it?
No, to be clear, they wouldn't be voting on the feasibility study. So the mayor has asked me, he did this several months ago, asked me to take a very hard look at the opportunities and challenges associated with consolidation of Ward and Underwood. This has been something that was discussed, this one was discussed in school committee as well. And I have been doing that over several months. I am going to be hosting a community meeting later this month, and then I will be presenting my findings and my recommendation to the school committee on June 1st. And then I would anticipate that the school committee would make a decision later in June on whether or not to continue to consider consolidation. If they decide that they do not recommend consolidation, then the feasibility design phase would move forward for the Ward School as just the Ward School. If they were to make a recommendation to continue to study consolidation, basically keep consolidation on the table, then the feasibility study would continue to evaluate both Ward and Underwood in a consolidated model.
Okay. I'll be at those meetings.
I'm sure.
Mr. Chair, could we ask Mr. Valcarce to take down unshare his screen so we can see?
Absolutely.
Okay, and Councilor Damobed, you can go next.
Well, I haven't quite gotten the answer to my other, the sustainability issues. I'd love to get a comment from our COO on that.
Sure. So part of the programmatic analysis for any of our school buildings is to look at everything, and that includes our full kitchen program. Part of the kitchen program is the discussion of, composting, dishwashing, wares. Do we need sinks in the cafeteria? Do we need a composting room off to the side? So all of those things are things that we discuss with Newton Public Schools. Ultimately, that is a programmatic element that Newton Public Schools would identify they either want or don't want. And that's something that the school committee votes on. I mentioned that earlier. That is one of the key votes that the school committee takes. They establish the program. It is something that I can guarantee you we will certainly discuss. But the decision, as I mentioned, would be something the school department would make a recommendation and the school committee would ultimately decide upon.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Councilor Damobed.
I might be getting out in front ahead of all of us, I guess, if I continue the conversation about Ward and Underwood. would you like me to wait?
Why don't we wait? Why don't we, yeah, that just, we'll get to it in a sec.
Fair enough.
All right, so on this item, Counselor Grossman moved approval. Counselor Grossman, do you move approval of the amended language?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I appreciate that. Are there any other comments on this one? All right, all those in favor of the approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that passes unanimously. Great. So 137-26, authorization to appropriate and expend $1,250,000 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for police facility feasibility design phase. His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $1,250,000 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for the police headquarters and training facility feasibility design phase. Okay. Mr. Valcarce, anything
Yes.
that you want to add on this one?
Just that, and it goes a little bit to Councilor Danubed's prior question. So in 2020, we started, we went through a selection process and onboarded, it's actually 2022, too many things. And onboarded Castle Booth's architects who are, this is what they do. They design police stations. And they did some analysis of the existing 3 buildings, the headquarters, the garage building in the back, and the annex. And they worked closely on the operational programming with the leadership at the time in the police department, which of course now has changed. So we have some groundwork there, which is good, and we are going to, work from that. That was a lot, kind of some test fits of within the existing structures. Now we'll go into a full-blown feasibility, and we'll start to look at, okay, what are all the other options, and how would this actually work? This project has some complexities, and how would we run operationally if we're doing? How would we work? The police department, and so those things need to be figured out along the way as we work in the feasibility study. So, but that's unique because for that building type. So that would be it. All of the other things that we discuss in terms of process would be the same.
Would you still have a community group? Not a community group, but a public group.
I mean, I would want to consult, but when we did the fire headquarters, we worked with a working group that had counselors and fire department, and so I think that's the model we would follow. The COO can maybe.
That's great.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to want some council involvement, and not surprisingly, we have a lot of volunteers from the Newton Police Department that are excited to pitch in. So this might break records. Might be one of the biggest working groups we've ever had.
All right, Councilor Getz. No? Okay.
Councilor Getz, you're on mute.
Okay, yay! I had weirdness go on here, so I'm on another computer. So I just have a quick question about so you've done the initial analysis and you will work within the existing footprint, or the scope of it is going to be not considering another site, correct? Am I understanding this correctly?
No, we would look at all various options. I mean, we always start with site selection, and you quickly find that you have no land. I mean, we would follow the steps, and that would be one of them, to an analysis of the site. And then, whether you're taking down the buildings or adding to the buildings or connecting the buildings and all of that, it would be all kinds of stuff to figure out.
Okay. All right. Because I just didn't know if that was what you were suggesting in terms of having had that initial analysis done. Whether or not the siting of the new headquarters would be actually on that existing site. Okay. Okay. So it's a possibility that it potentially could be somewhere else as well.
If we were able to find sufficient land to do it.
Yeah.
I mean.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Like we say in public buildings, process is paramount. We always follow our process every single time. It has served us well over several decades, and we will never deviate from that.
Right. Okay. Because I remember there was some sort of, when Mayor Fuller came in initially, there was a little bit of talk of, selling the properties, and so I just didn't know if that was still part of the equation.
Yeah, it's I will say thank you, Counselor. We do so I still do have that list of sites that we evaluated. So we wouldn't be working from scratch, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Damabet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm so glad, CEO Morse, that you mentioned process and many decades, because the current police building was built many decades ago and reflects a different kind of policing processes than are those that are used today. And even in the last decade, policing has undergone many reforms to make it more community oriented. So I'm just curious to know, are there ways that our process is going to be considered or tweaked in this feasibility study phase to make sure that we're reflecting those reforms and, that those reforms are reflected in the final project?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I agree that our current police headquarters, while certainly has some charm from a preservation standpoint, may not give the most welcoming community policing welcome hug that we're looking to portray out there. So when you go to other stations that have been either recently redone or recently built from the ground up, you see a very stark difference. To your point, we won't go too far down this rabbit hole because we got a lot tonight, but the existing building was built at a time when horse and carriages were still going up and down Newton streets. Policing has changed significantly, to your point, just in the past few decades, let alone in the past nearly a century. And I also think what's limiting the police department with respect to meeting a lot of what you were just talking about is that the existing building's 20,000 square feet. By national space standards and the size of the department, the building should be about 50,000 square feet. It is very, very small. So what ends up happening is that building has been, of course, internally modified over the years. And because of that, everything is really closed in and it's very tight. So not only does it have a very kind of command presence from the outside as a hardened facility, but when you step in, it's also not inviting because everything is very tight. And we just don't have the flexibility to make it feel more inviting and welcoming. So that's a long way of saying, yes, all of that is on the table. We're looking forward to this being not only a 21st century police facility, but a civic building that we can be proud of and that represents our police officers well.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think I'm looking to understand, or maybe just putting out that I'm asking for, a community engaged process in the feasibility study phase, but just generally that there's a reflection of those policing reforms that are in place and that those are communicated clearly to the community so that they understand sort of when we're making investments in our police at this scale, that they're also being tied to smart reforms and that those are reflected in the building. So I'm just looking for that in the process and in the way that this lands.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councilor Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, the fire department and the fire stations, many of them have been redone over the past number of years. And a number of us went to look at Station 1 and 2 because of some things that Mr. Valcarce has brought to our attention along with the chief. And and although the living quarters in both of those two stations must be upgraded and the kitchens must be upgraded, I couldn't think about asking anybody to do more for the fire department until we upgraded the police department. That project is so long past overdue that it's terrific that we're going to finally get to it. And I would be very happy to move approval.
Thank you, Councilor Albright. There's a motion to approve 137-26. Any further conversation? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right, great. That passes unanimously. 138-26, authorization to appropriate and expend $1,250,000 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for elementary schools feasibility design phase. His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $1,250,000 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for the Ward and/or Underwood Elementary Schools feasibility design phase. Okay. Anything, Mr. Valcarce, that you want to kick us off with there?
I just wanted to note that Councilor Grossman raised her hand.
Only because I am that excited to move approval the minute I get recognized.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna go. Okay.
I don't have much more to add. The process we've talked about, the school committee has to decide which way they want to go. And one of my favorite sayings is, in public buildings, we don't make the policy, we execute the policy. So someone will give me the policy and I'll know if I'm studying what I need to study, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, thank you. Councilor Grossman.
Thank you. I would love to move approval of this item. I recognize there's going to be a robust discussion before this committee, before finance, and in the community, and that there are some complicated questions to answer. I have been waiting formally in my time involved in Newton politics for a decade to make this motion. I know others on this meeting have been waiting even longer. And I'm also happy to the extent that it's helpful for anybody to go over my own personal history, specifically with respect to the ward side of this. The only very brief part of this that I will tell you is that when I first started running for city council in the fall of 2016, the long range plan at that time, I don't know if councilors who were around then remember, we used to get this long horizontal fold out timeline of the plan.
Right.
And coupled with it, we also got ratings about which buildings were in the worst condition. And back then in 2016, Ward was rated as the worst condition of all the buildings, and it was next on the timeline. As happens, we had a changeover in the mayor. We had some change, perhaps in circumstances of the community, or at least the mayor's interpretation of circumstances of the community. And Ward fell by the wayside. And despite different attempts over the years to get that process started again, it fell apart at least 2 times between then and now. So as I said, I could talk all night long about this. I won't. All I'll say is I couldn't be more passionate about moving forward on this. I also understand that Underwood and many of our other elementary schools are very much in need, and I'm cognizant of that. But I really want to see this move forward, and I will stop there and let the conversation proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grossman. Councilor Donald, do you have a counterpoint to that? I'm kidding.
Chair, I do not. I do not have a counterpoint. I'll quickly just add that I wasn't able to join for the visit to Ward and the PTO meeting there, but I was able to join for the PTO meeting and visit to Underwood. And I just think I want to take a moment to recognize our teachers and the teams at our schools and the principals and staff that are keeping these two buildings running and doing amazing work within them. To educate our young people. What I saw there was a lot of challenges and a lot of joy. And it was really beautiful to see. So I just wanted to give big props to those teams that are doing that. The question that I had that I wanted to go back to is just a clarification of what you said, CEO Morse, in the sort of sequencing of decisions. What I heard was the feasibility study that we're looking at moving forward tonight effectively will be for only one building, and that will either be for Ward or for a consolidated building, depending on how the school committee decides after reading your assessment. And I just want to, is that correct? Is my understanding
That is
correct?
correct.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to clarify, you said, I want to try to get the words right. I believe you said, if the school committee decides to leave consolidation on the table, then we would do a study for consolidation. This feasibility study would be for consolidated school. In that scenario, I just want to make sure that in that scenario, we're not ending up late doing this feasibility for a consolidated school and then saying, actually, no, we're going back to a new Ward and a new Underwood. When we say leaving consolidation on the table, that means that's the direction we're heading in.
Not necessarily. So the point of feasibility is to test out whether or not we think, if the school committee were to vote to keep consolidation on the table, feasibility would study a consolidated Ward and Underwood. We would establish the design enrollment. We would establish the program. We'd get a sense as to how big the building is, what our staff count is, what our site area is, and then we would evaluate our sites. Is there a scenario in which, and there's a lot of ifs here, but is there a scenario in which the school committee recommends consolidation, studying consolidation, and if we go through all those steps, and if we find out that there is not a suitable site for a consolidated Ward Underwood, and if the school committee then makes a decision to go back to the drawing board with two, yes, it could happen. What I would say is stay tuned.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. No, that's helpful to understand. I just wanted to make sure that I had it clear what this feasibility study might do and then where that takes us. So that's good to know. No matter what the school committee decides, I'm looking forward to seeing the study and its work.
And I will say just very briefly, for the folks who have raised the other elementary schools and the other middle schools that we haven't gotten to yet, those are real. I spent a lot of time in them, but I will leave you with a statement that the late Mayor Warren told me way back now, 15 years ago. And what he said was, we will never get to the end if we don't start at the beginning. So we're quite a ways past the beginning, but we haven't got to the end yet.
All right, thank you. So there is a motion to approve 138-26. Any other conversation on it? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that passes unanimously. 141-26. Authorization to appropriate and expend $63,573.42 from June 30th, 2025 certified free cash for Underwood security cameras. His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to appropriate and expend $63,573.42 from June 30th, 2025, certified free cash for security cameras at the Underwood Elementary School. I'll go right to Mr. Valcarce on this.
Thank you, Councilor Kalis. So this particular item is a little tricky. There was a security incident at the Underwood School. There was a suspicious fire. I don't really have any facts or any other information. These things, get investigated and looked at. The school department moved, rightly so, quickly to install these cameras and do the work. They have some issues in their budgets that they've been dealing with. They reached out to the city, us, and said, do you think that the city could fund getting the money for the work? The cameras were put in because of the situation. So that's the request.
Okay. Councilor Grossman.
I know at this late hour, we don't have time to get into a very full discussion about security cameras across the system. I do remember asking a lot of questions about it, particularly after the Parkland incident. We had a few docket items back then about security at our schools, and there were some protocol changes about who could come in and out of our buildings. I certainly support this. I will leave it to Councilor Leary if she wants to move approval, given that this is squarely in her ward. Happy to support this and would love at another time and a less full agenda to have a more robust discussion about the current state of security across our schools and when and if more cameras in other places are appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your limiting that. And I think that's a good conversation, probably for programs and services, or maybe here, I don't know. But okay, Councilor Gordon.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just curious about how these get monitored. So we install the cameras, and then is it just you get notified if something happens, then you go back and look at them, or are we installing all these cameras and then
they record? It's a great question. Thank you. They record, and those recordings are kept by Newton Public Schools. And when an incident happens, there's no one live monitoring cameras, right? An incident happens, they go back and they investigate it. So that's how that function works.
Thank you.
Councilor Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was going to ask that question too, if they record, because I'm aware that there's a lot of cameras in the city that do not. I wanted to ask, is this something that's routine now for all? I mean, are these replacing existing cameras, or are these brand new cameras? And how was the decision made to where to put them if they are brand new cameras?
I would imagine that these are brand new cameras, and they were placed working with the school. Dave Stickney from Facilities is the camera guru. So I'm imagining that they laid it out. Our security vendor, the city security vendor, did the work.
And is that, do all the other schools have cameras too?
I don't know if all of the schools have, but I believe so. And certainly anything that we're building new definitely have cameras.
Okay, and this was really got started because of this security incident where there was a fire. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
Was that inside the building or outside on the grounds?
So the fire was inside the building. I have limited information, but what I will share is that as a father and as a parent, I felt very comfortable supporting this, supporting the installation of the cameras the following day.
Okay. I totally support the installation of the cameras. I was just curious as to the details. If we're talking about security at the school, there's one other thing. I think bollards by the window where the cars park, they can park right up to the school and right up to the window of the lower level. And if they ever move forward, they go right through the window into the classroom. I think there should be bollards there. I know that's not this item, but since I have you here, that's something I really noticed. And one truck was literally this far away from the window.
Councilor Larry, do you mind if we take that offline?
We'll take it offline. Yeah, I'll
Thank
end
you.
those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Getz?
Thank you, Chair. The only thought that I'm having is I would really, and I appreciate what Councilor Grossman said, because this is not the time to have a fuller discussion about this, but it sort of sounds like you keep using the past tense. So these cameras have been installed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And, I just don't know, I'd love to scope this out a bit more and get a sense of where they are, do we have cameras in all our schools? What is the privacy, sort of laws around this? I mean, it widens into a very, very bigger conversation. And I just sort of appreciate what has been said, but I also feel like I'd love to know what the standards are, and I just don't know enough about, what is and what I'm mostly concerned about someone making a FOIA request or a request to get this footage for a court issue, that kind of thing. So it's that sort of like complexity that sort of needs a little bit fuller discussion. But not at this time.
Yeah, what I might suggest, so very briefly, Newton Public Schools started installing cameras in 2010. A lot of our schools, if not the majority of them, have cameras. School committee has a policy. It's been around for quite some time. Law department's been involved. We've been through FOIA for many, many years now. I do agree. It's a deeper conversation with a lot of other players. Quite frankly, mainly Newton Public Schools and the school committee would need to be at that table.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, Councilor Albright?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, the quotation letter from the company was dated January 2026. Why did it take so long to get here, this docket item?
So we worked through docket. It was a combination of things. Newton Public Schools, as it got a little further into the winter, started running into a tighter budget, and it was placing some pressure on charter maintenance. This is kind of one of those projects that's right on the bubble as far as what charter maintenance would historically pick up. Because of the time of year and because of the budget challenges that they were faced with, David Stickney reached out and asked if the city would be willing to cover these costs, so that he's not then really running on fumes for maintaining the school buildings for the rest of the fiscal year. And so that was something that we ultimately supported, and then docketed and worked through the city council process.
So have they already paid and will be giving the money back to the schools or no?
Yeah, I did just recently check. There was a little bit of confusion on that, but the vendor was paid. So the vendor has been paid. There were two different ways we could have docketed this. In this case, we wanted to be very forthcoming with what the money was for. The other way we could have done it is we could have docketed for a supplemental appropriation to charter maintenance and then explained what projects like this that place pressure on charter maintenance. In this case, it made more sense to just lay it on the table as to what it was.
Okay. Has anybody made a motion to approve?
No.
Because if not, I'll be happy to do that.
All right.
Make the motion.
Councilor Leary made a motion to approve on this item.
Yeah.
So, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. We're close. 160-26. Repurpose $500,000 for multiple small projects at NPS. His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to repurpose $500,000 from docket item 123-25 to fund multiple small projects at NPS.
Yes, thank you. So there's a list that I provided of projects that the school department needs to work on. in light of the fact that we're going to be moving, looking at South Now in a more comprehensive fashion, the theory here is that we wouldn't expend this $500,000 at this time on this particular part of the project in the building. And so this area may be an area that gets studied, and the request is to repurpose the funds to meet the small projects that are listed. I could share my screen if that's helpful. I just have to go back to where I was. Way back here.
Okay, Counselor Albright.
So I looked at the list, and couple of things stuck out at me. One is that Ainger and Cabot are both on it. So Ainger is there are new schools. But flooring is this expected wear and tear on these schools? And if so, do we think maybe we shouldn't use the materials that we're wearing out? Again, a question just to think about in terms of lessons learned.
It is a good question. I was a little surprised too. I know some of the work at Ainger is on the stair treads and those things. I'd have to, Cabot is painting. I'd have to go and see exactly what areas we're looking at. But I know that I'm pretty sure the Ainger area is mostly, I think, in the stairs and the nosings. And then there might have been some areas of tile work, the linoleum tile.
If they're ending up on the list, I'm fine with doing them. I just thought it would be take note of what happened and maybe not do that again in the next new school. And the only other one I wanted to ask about was the Newton South High School has $174,000. Is this stuff that really must be done right away?
Do you want me to jump in, Alex?
Yeah, please.
All right. So for Newton South, it's interesting. Actually, I'll bring this one right back to you, Councilor Albright. You might recall that when we were in the midst of planning for the Cabot School project, we were in feasibility, and we made an investment to replace the steam traps because the building heat was either way too cold or way too hot. And there was a discussion in public facilities where we discussed whether or not it was a worthwhile investment because the big project was coming. In this case, it's even a little more different because as I mentioned before, we're not really anticipating demolishing all of Newton South High School. So the investments that we make now will mean that there are investments that we don't need to make down the road. And at the same time, this project will take many years to complete too. So for some of these things, especially things like restrooms, for example, it is nice to be able to keep those things functional and clean and appropriate while we work through the project.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure they need to be done. Thanks.
Yep. Counselor Kelly.
Just a quick question. Sorry if I missed it. If you already went over this and I was blanking out. What is docket item 123-25 that this is coming from? What was that item that had this money that's being now repurposed?
Those were funds to do improvements for the bathrooms.
So they didn't happen?
Correct.
Okay.
So basically, just to fill you in what happened there, there was approximately $500,000 approved to do restroom upgrades at Newton South High School. That free cash was authorized in the spring. By the time we were able to get quotes, Newton Public Schools did not feel comfortable with us moving forward with the amount of time we had left of the summer. So they recommended that we wait till the following summer. That would be this summer. But over the winter, we started having conversations about the larger Newton South High School project. And if you hadn't noticed, we got a new mayor. So there was a slight change of course, and in working with Newton Public Schools, we felt it was more appropriate to utilize those funds for these purposes, including a little bit of work at South as well, as I just mentioned.
All right. And thank you for scrolling up, Alex. I did see it there. Thanks. I was just curious. Okay. That's it. Quick one for
Okay.
me.
Maybe it's for finance. I would like to try to manage the whole amounts, because you know that some things are a little more and some things are a little less, and these are our numbers, our best numbers. But we could bring that up at finance.
Counselor Leary, do you have your hand up?
Apparently I do, but I don't think I have any questions right now. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Counselor Damabed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'd like to just go back to Counselor Kelly's question a little bit. I'm just a little confused by the idea that, like, over a year ago we thought bathroom upgrades were necessary, but I mean we're not realistically talking about meaningful, a feasibility study is going to take 12 to 18 months. Construction, I'm like, that's so many years away. Do the bathrooms need work at South? If they do, I feel like we should do that. Like,
it was urgent at the time.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like a worthwhile investment, and seems like we should be able to make the needed investments if the bathrooms need work at South.
I agree. I think that that Newton Public Schools made it clear that based on the larger project coming, they would prefer, when looking at the totality of the district, to wait on the larger project for the restrooms at South and instead utilize those funds to invest in other schools throughout the district. That's the best I can do, because that's the truth.
Okay, so basically they said if there weren't a seriously upgraded school coming, we need new bathrooms right away. But if there's something big coming, we'll survive.
You got it.
Okay. All right.
They probably don't use those bathrooms.
All right. Is there a motion on this?
I'll move approval.
Counselor Grossman?
Oh, that's fine. Counselor Albright can move approval.
Okay. All right. Counselor Albright moved approval on 160-26. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, great. Thank you. That's unanimous. We'll try to get this one done. 159-26. Repurposing of $833,948.85 for Burr School roof. Hold on. This is going to be amended, I believe.
Our apologies. I know it's late.
It's okay. Let me just make sure I have it. Is it for Burr School and Newton South roofs?
You got it.
Yes.
This one's going to make Counselor Damabed's head explode.
Yeah, exactly.
Not your head exploding, but explaining it.
Yeah.
No,
so
I understand.
so it's repurposing of $833,948.85 for Burr School roof, but it's written as then His Honor the Mayor requesting authorization to repurpose $833,948.85 from docket item 33-24 to fund the replacement of the Burr School roof and Newton South High School roofs.
Correct.
All right, Alex,
Okay.
It's all yours.
Okay. So we are going to do the work at Burr. That's a re-roof. And again, we're going to look at the roof at Newton South. Again, keeping water and keeping the roof and everything in good shape is important. We will probably have to look at what areas we're talking about as we're looking at it. So obviously we'll have to pick and choose a little bit. I'd like to concentrate on on Burr for the most part. And again, we would ask to manage the total sum so that we can get both pieces done, but we're not locked in where if one is lower and one is higher, we're stuck. This money was repurposed from the previous re-roofing jobs, from savings from those. And so we just continue to kind of try to roll them over and pick off the next set of roofs and keep working on them.
Okay, Councilor Albright?
So if memory serves, when we went to the Brown school, there was a lot of discussion about leaky roofs at Brown. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know about the roof at Newton South or at Burr, but I saw the problems with the roof at Brown. And I don't know why is Brown was at the top of the list to do something, and they're getting nothing out of any of this. And it will be years before we get back to Brown. It just doesn't, something is wrong here. Are the Burr roofs and the Newton South roof worse than the Brown roof, which is clearly leaking?
So, Alex, would you like me to take this?
Yep.
All right. So the Burr School roof, great question, Councilor Albright. The Burr School roof was actively leaking throughout this winter. It was not leaking last year. I don't know if it was just a perfect storm. I mean, it's an old roof, but I don't know if it was a perfect storm with the winter conditions that we experienced, but we saw kind of a rapid deterioration and failure of the membrane. We were collecting water in buckets throughout many places in the Burr School. We made some temporary patches, but the superintendent and David Stickney both made it very clear this was a very high priority for them. We are keenly aware of Brown. Brown is number 58 on our prioritization list, keeping in mind that while that may seem low, that's actually pretty high considering many of the projects above it are already in construction. So that is certainly on the short list. The South High, the reason that's included is there is a section over there in the weight room that is also actively leaking. We just recently had a seam kind of open up, and we were just talking to the superintendent, they have new equipment for the weight room that they recently secured, but they have held off on putting it in the weight room until we can get the roof replaced. So that's a pretty high priority. And while we're there, we're going to take a look around the rest of the roof. We would anticipate that the larger project would replace the rest of the roof, but we want to make sure there's nothing else that is going to become compromised in the next couple of years while we're waiting for that bigger project.
So I don't know who to make this request of, but Brown, as I've said already, I shouldn't repeat myself. Brown was at the top of the list to do something, and it's no longer at the top of the list, and it clearly has problems. I would ask you to ask the mayor to please find some money for the Brown roof, so that at least the Brown doesn't. I mean, we all know that it's going to be years before we get back to Brown. We've got the Ward Underwood situation. We've got the Newton South situation, and we've got lots of projects already going on. At least we can fix their roof so that they don't have buckets everywhere either. So please ask the mayor if he can find some money for Brown for their roof.
Thank you, Councilor.
Good point. Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. So this is coming from kind of like shall we call it a rolling roofing fund that gets used as it's needed. And when this item was first written, you were requesting $833,000+ just for Burr. But now you've added in South and you only need $360 for Burr. So it makes me wonder how it is that you determine what it is you're asking at any given time. And is it just kind of a numbers game of playing stuff around here? What's the difference between thinking you needed almost $834,000 for Burr, but now you can do it for $360?
It's a very good question. So what I would say is when we initially asked for the money for both the Mason Rice and Pierce roofs, we were still in that very high inflationary period, and predicting cost escalation was extremely challenging. So we carried some pretty healthy numbers. Mason Rice came in pretty close. Pierce came in well under. Pierce was done after Mason Rice, so I think there was some market stabilization that resulted in some pretty good buyout savings. Because of that, and also because the conditions underneath the membranes in that case were not bad, we were able to have a pretty significant amount of savings, that $833,000. Over the winter, as I mentioned, the superintendent and David Stickney made it clear that the Burr School roof was a very high priority for them. We looked to repurpose the savings from the Pierce roof, the $833,000, to do the Burr roof. Based on the dimensions of the roof, we thought that that would be a good number, certainly more than we thought it would be, but with contingency, we thought it would be appropriate. So we docketed for that. After we docketed, we started getting our proposals in, and the number that you see is the number that we got for a roofer that we do a solid amount of business with. And simultaneous to that, the superintendent and Dave Stickney asked us if we could certainly address the weight room at South and possibly take a look at other areas over there to make sure that we're in a good place for the next few years while we work on the larger project. So we felt it was appropriate to recommend amending the article or the item this evening.
But you can see perhaps why it's not compelling to us to have such a huge discrepancy in what you asked for, say, a few weeks ago, and then more than doubled the request of what was really needed. It just makes me question the request, honestly, when there's such a big discrepancy as what we see in this one. I understand your explanation, and I understand that reality estimates came in much lower, but that's a lot lower to come in. So just that, I guess, in a way, that's just a comment.
I appreciate that. I do. Every once in a while, well, we've had to go both ways. We've had some bids come in, like Lincoln Elliott came in $7 million under our estimate. Countryside Franklin came in over $10 million under our estimate. So every once in a while, things go our way, and sometimes they go the opposite direction. In this case, it came in well under where we thought we would be.
Thank you. Councilor Grossman.
My comment was going to be similar, just in noting the $801,000, under that we were for the Pierce School roof is in great contrast to the $32,000 for Mason Rice. I don't know. I certainly understand that construction costs have fluctuated, but it does seem pretty wild in that case. I guess, I won't add on to what Councilor Kelly already made clear. I guess the only comment that I really have is we're looking at now $436,000 for the Newton South High School roof. Initially, you mentioned just the weight room. You also just mentioned kind of looking at some other places. So I imagine $436,000 is not just for the section above the weight room.
No, definitely not. And I can assure you that when we go out and do our evaluation, if we are not going to be looking to do any more roof than is necessary to get us through the next few years, because I do firmly believe that the roof would be replaced as part of that larger project, and the economy of scale of replacing that entire roof at once, minus the weight room that we would be doing now, would present far better square foot cost than if we were to do it in smaller sections. So what I would hope is that we're ultimately turning back a significant amount of this money. Who knows? Maybe we're looking to come back and look to spend some of this over at Brown.
Say, do they really want to use their new weights more than they want bathrooms? Because this is a pretty close amount to the item from before. But I guess this also, to me, answers one of my other questions to some extent, which is what kind of scope are you thinking for Newton South High School? It doesn't seem to me that you'd be overly enthusiastic about spending $436,000 on a roof you don't intend to use in the next iteration of the building, but I do understand we have to maintain buildings while we're getting to that point, and that it is going to be a good bit of time. I just sort of remember when we were doing the Lincoln Elliott project, and we were talking about, different iterations of what that building could be. And one of the realities was that a bunch of money had gone in to replace the windows.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, you don't want to tear out all these windows, that we just put in. So it's something it kind of hurts a little bit to spend this kind of money when we're about to enter the phase where we really want to do a full evaluation of something. But again, if you and the school committee are telling us this is the priority, I'm willing to support it. Thank you.
Counselor Getz, sorry.
No, that's okay. But thank you, Chair. I actually was, sort of seeing, and this is something that I just don't know, offering you the flexibility as a friendly amendment in terms of thinking about like the level of specificity that's required. Like if in fact you do have turnback funds, can we just put a proviso that it would actually go to Brown and roofing at Brown? I just don't know in terms of process, or do you have to reinitiate and then resubmit a docket item? I'm just sort of thinking about this and the complexity of roofing, because you mentioned membrane, you mentioned that you actually have to do an inspection and then sort of figure out the scope of, how you're going to roof, correct? And, it sort of seems as if, how much money you will need will depend on how much of it can be left, and then, whatever else needs to happen. So I just didn't know whether or not at this juncture we could say if in fact there is any residual funds that they could be applied at Brown. I just don't know.
What I would say, and of course I would defer to the chair and the committee, is that a friendly amendment to include language that said something to the effect of the Burr and Newton South High School roofs, or Burr, Newton South and school roofs, or something like that would be perfectly fine. And we would be happy to report back to the committee once we get firmed up on the Newton South High School scope, and get you a sense as we could certainly, with this kind of money, we would not be able to do the entire Brown roof. I don't want anybody to think that, but I also know the leaks at Brown quite well because we've been patching them pretty frequently. So I know where they are. It's not the entire school. The whole roof does need to be replaced, but we could certainly focus on some of the areas that are more problematic. But I would defer to the committee on that. But I certainly would support it from my position.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Donabed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Counselor Getz kind of read my mind, but and basically suggested what I was going to suggest. Just to confirm, this is a full replacement of the Burr School roof, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll just say that I'm very glad to see some investment in our beloved Ward 4 Burr School. And I would also support a friendly amendment that I noticed different language in how you phrased it, CEO Morse, than just focused on Brown, but if that makes sense, it would make sense. I would support a friendly amendment that would get more schools out of this amount of money, I guess.
And just in the interest of full transparency, the only reason why I was a little reluctant to just jump right to Brown is, while I've had direct conversations with Newton Public Schools about South and Burr, we didn't talk specifically about Brown, so I didn't want to be presumptuous, but it is the will of the committee. So,
Roger that. Understood. Thank you.
Counselor Grossman.
I very much respect the feelings and intent of my colleagues, and if you all decide to proceed with that amendment, it's not it won't crush me. But that said, I don't really agree with it for a couple reasons. I don't think that it's our place without being presented with oh God, it's late and I can't talk. Prioritization and information to just assume that that's the next highest need. For example, not to always bring it back to Ward, we've had lots of buckets and roof leaks in Ward over the last decade. And, you know, it just happens that we didn't have all these listening tours and buildings and people walking around at the moment that people were complaining about the roof leaks. So it's not to say that Brown doesn't need it. I'm sure it does. I'd love to see their roof fixed. I just think that if we have extra money, it should go through the proper channels and come back to us. And get the school committee and the powers that be on that side to be making the recommendations to us rather than us assuming.
Thanks, Counselor Grossman. Before I keep going with Albright and Getz, I'm just gonna say I kind of agree with I think it was Counselor Albright who made, I don't even remember, but I like the idea of amending this so it reads something like at the end, the Burr School roof and Newton South High School roofs with any residual money being spent on other school roofs. So it's general. It could go to Brown, it could go to Ward, it could go wherever they recommend, to Counselor Grossman's point. But I do see that it seems like there's going to be extra money. And given this conversation and the COO hearing us, maybe you focus on just the area that where you're leaking at Newton South and then go to other schools where you're leaking. But that's my comment. Counselor Albright.
So I like the statement that you just made, Chair. I think we shouldn't presume to make the decision for the school committee about where the money should go. And if it were to go to Brown, it should go back to the school committee and school department to ask them what they think about it. But I mean, so when this, I don't know when this list was done, but at some point in December of 2025, the school committee voted that Brown was the next highest school to go to. And that's only like, what, 3-4 months ago. And maybe they thought that something was going to happen with Brown at the time. So maybe that's why it's not on any of these lists, because they thought something else was going to happen to Brown, and instead it's going to Newton South High School. So if you want to amend it to say other Newton schools, if there's leftover money, it could go to other Newton school roofs, that's fine. But I wouldn't specify Brown without going back to them and asking if that's what they want to do.
Okay. Counselor Getz?
Yeah, I'm completely okay with that. That sounds good. That sounds, yeah, I think it's the appropriate thing to do.
Okay. Counselor Grossman?
I just wouldn't even specify roofs. We don't have the Brown Middle School principal here. We don't know that if they had extra money to spend on something that they would necessarily choose the roof.
That's
I
true.
remember getting a bunch of complaints from Ward once upon a time about the parking lot and advocating for the parking lot and getting a little, not a hand slap from the schools, actually, from our former mayor about like, how are you presuming you know what the principal has asked us for? And I hadn't asked the principal first, and I didn't make that mistake again. So I would like the schools to keep this money and make improvements. I just don't
And
think
what we could do
I should say what it is.
we could replace the last word of roofs with projects. So it would read replacement of the Burr School roof and Newton South High School roofs with any residual money being spent on other school projects.
Do we need to specify capital projects, or is it understood that?
Yeah.
I think it's understood.
Yeah, especially
Do
with
people feel strong.
Councilor Domabed, if this was repurposed bonded money, then we would want to start talking about the life of the asset. But with free cash, you have some flexibility.
I'm not sure we should make that kind of an amendment at all. I mean, they should come back to us with what they want and what they need. I don't think we should be so broad as to say other school projects.
Okay. I'm kind of thinking that too at this late hour. Counselor Grossman?
I agree. And, you know, as it's starting to head that direction, and I'm thinking about, you know, how we piece together different school items and had people in the school budget talking about what they wanted to do with $150,000. I just really don't think we should be playing around with allocations.
Okay. Is there a motion on the item as it is?
Motion to approve as is.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, there's a motion to approve 159. Oh, sorry. I needed motion to approve the amended because we're adding in Newton South High School roofs.
I would love to make the motion to approve as amended to include the Newton South High School roof.
Okay, thank you. Okay, a motion's been made. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. So the item passes.
Yay, good
All right.
night.
Good job. I'm so proud of this committee. Thank you for staying in there.
It's like a
Things always
Lenten
get
committee
crazy as we head to 10:30.
Wait, that's it? We're
I
done?
know.
You want to do more?
No, we're done.
We're done.
We are adjourned.
If you
I
like
appreciate
late
everybody.
nights, come
Good
to
night.
Lanterns. Bye.
Good night.
All right,
Right.
great.
Night.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Good night.
Right,
Night.
thank you.